Notice it wasn't Trump.
5.
So I remember when I was a kid, this advertisement on TV and on radio, actually, for gum, you know, chewing gum. It was Wrigley's, as I recall. You know, double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Mint. You know, I don't even know if they still make the gum, but today is our Double Your Pleasure, Double Your Fun Day, to steal an old, probably trademarked line. Because Azra in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Andrew in San Diego, and Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio, and thank you to each one of you, put together a match that adds up to $10,000. So any gift you give today up to $10,000 will be doubled. So your $10 becomes $20, your $100 becomes $200, your $500 becomes $1,000, your $1,000 becomes $2,000, et cetera. And in terms of the money that goes to Free Speech TV. So today is a great day to contribute. It's a great day to call 877-378-8669. I better say that again, 877-378-8669. A great day to call and put down your marker, right? Say your pledge, and double your pleasure and double your fun by doubling your match. So here we go. It's a great time to call. Also, you can donate at freespeech.org. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program Fair and Slightly Unbalanced bumper sticker. With the $72 gift, you get my book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, which was released today. Today is the day that the book goes out. So that's kind of cool. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of A Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With $20 a month, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, this is an ongoing pledge commitment, and these are very important, these $20 and $30 a month pledge commitments. With a $30 a month pledge commitment, you get both the stainless steel water bottle and the Thom Hartmann tote bag. With a $500 gift, you can participate in our virtual meet and greet, and on Monday of next week, come to Washington, D.C., and if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're going to be in Washington, D.C., this is June 10th, in the hour before I do a book signing at Busboys and Poets on K Street in Washington, D.C., we will have a meet and greet just for Free Speech TV donors who made a gift of $500 or more. So your choice, virtual meet and greet, in other words, hang out, get together, off the record conversation with me, or a meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and hang out with us. You know, it's and of course you can give more than that. And today is a great day to do it because whatever you give will be doubled. The bottom line is it's really, really important that we maintain this television network, that we keep it going forward. Free Speech TV is such an important media outlet. It's such an important television network. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a television network, and it's a nationwide television network, and now with the internet, a worldwide television network for, you know, broadcasting, promoting, sharing a genuine progressive message from a wide variety of hosts, representing a diverse cross-section of America that's growing even more diverse as we continue to add new shows. So just a lot of really extraordinary stuff here on Free Speech TV and a lot of great programming from the very best news that you can find literally anywhere. I mean, Amy Goodman's newscast every day, in my opinion, beats anything out there. It beats the network news, it beats PBS, it beats NPR. It certainly beats anything we're doing in terms of news reporting. This show is not a news show as much as it is an opinion show. So we, you know, pick up the news stories of the day, but, you know, I rant about them. But if you really want the news, there you go. That's you know, Democracy Now! Is just one heck of a program. And then you've got a lot of people who are talking about the news, which is, you know, pretty much most of the rest of us on Free Speech TV. Amy is kind of our Walter Cronkite, and we're the commentators. And it's just an amazing thing that has been pulled together over all these years by this relatively small group of people in Denver who you know, run this network, make this happen, and are just doing an absolutely spectacular job. So please call now, 877-378-8669. You can also donate online at freespeech.org, 877-378-8669. You probably heard that telephone number so many times today that you have it memorized. But it's particularly important now. And if you call during our program gets the benefits of that. You know, we get the credit for it, as it were. And you know, that's a good thing too. It's kind of your vote for our show. And we appreciate that very much when you call during our program, when our program is live, or if you call in some other time and say, you know, I'm calling because I saw the Thom Hartmann program. So whether you go to freespeech.org, whether you call 877-378-8669, today is a great day to give because of the generosity of Azra, I hope I'm saying that right, in Oak Brook, Illinois, Andrew in San Diego, Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio. Please call now, please. You know, every day here on the Thom Hartmann program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, you know, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, you know, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com and you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. A lot of the news, obviously, Donald Trump taking his tantrums to the UK. One of the protesters there was holding up a sign that said, America, we've got him and the whole crime family over here. Change the locks and cancel the passports. Ah! Yeah, can't they just keep him? And he's, I mean, literally his whole family is there. All the kids, their kids, their in-laws. It's like, there's 1,000 people. I mean, literally or nearly over 900 people who went with Donald Trump. A couple hundred of those are probably security, but still, I mean, we could just close the door, can't we? No, we can't. All right, some serious stuff. Did the government just test the internet kill switch? Something happened over the weekend, and this has like layers of significance and consequence associated with it. And frankly, I'm surprised that it's getting almost no publicity at all. The conservatives are thinking that this was the U.S. government trying to figure out when it's going to shut down all the conservative websites. And everybody else is wondering if it was the Chinese government or the Russian government or the Iranian government or the North Korean government or some other government that we are, shall we say, not on the best of terms with at the moment, who is saying to us, hey, look what we can do. What happened was over the weekend, this was 3 o'clock on Sunday, as I recall, Eastern time, around noon our time. All of a sudden, people who used any of the big internet providers, apparently this was mostly Google Cloud, which was Gmail, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, among others, that it went down. And if you had one of these thermostats, instead of seeing the temperature, you'd see a giant question mark. If you had one of these automatic ways to unlock your front door, you couldn't get into your house. If you had one of the doorbells, you wouldn't be able to see what was going on. If you had, fill in the blanks, right? If you had email through one of Google's services or some of these other services, no, you couldn't get access to it. What does this mean? And beyond the conspiracy theories over what happened Sunday, I think there's a larger issue, which is, let's assume for a minute that it was just a screw up at Google headquarters, because this seems to have had to do with the Google Cloud product, and which is basically just a giant server farm that is accessed through the internet. That's called the cloud. There is no cloud. It's somebody's hard drive, right? It's somebody's server. If you put your Apple information, if you have the Apple Cloud enabled, you're just putting your information on Apple's servers. If you've got, any of the others, you're just putting your information on their servers. So it might have just been a screw up, but it also might have been a testing 1, 2, 3. And so the question is, what do we do if it was? Or what should we do to prevent something like that from happening? I think the answers at a certain level are fairly obvious. We need to harden our internet capability. This is now part of our critical infrastructure. You've got everything from businesses to dams and bridges that can't run without the internet anymore. We've seen, where the virus, the CIA tool that was let loose into the wild by hackers a few years ago and apparently picked up by some North Korean hackers and others and turned into ransomware, has shut down hospitals, all kinds of things. So obviously we need to do that. But I think the larger question is, well, actually, it raises a whole bunch of different questions. By making ourselves so reliant on an internet that is fundamentally insecure, what are we opening ourselves up to? What are the alternatives? I mean, it's like, and if we get self-driving cars, they're going to have to work on the internet. They're going to have to work over the cloud. What kind of hacking potentials does that represent? Have we wandered into Brave New World territory? I just think it's fascinating stuff. So, I tossed that out. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. Europe apparently was also affected. The notification, this is Zero Hedge tweeted, the notification gateway to advise Google that the cloud is down is on the cloud, and it's down. Twitter was down, Pokemon Go was down, all kinds of stuff. So, pretty potent stuff. So anyway, your thoughts on that, I'm curious. Also, your thoughts on term limits. This, I got to tell you, in my opinion, term limits are a scam. They're just an absolute scam. The reality is that when a new young person comes into Congress or comes into a state legislature, the state house or state senate, or comes into the city council, your local town or whatever, or the United States Senate even, a new person comes in, they need to learn their way around. They need to learn how the levers of power are used. They need to learn how do you translate an idea into legislation? How do you challenge somebody who's opposing you legislatively? How do you wield influence, essentially, as a legislator? How do you get things done? Who are the people in the permanent infrastructure, essentially, of government that you need to get to know? What is the Congressional Budget Office? How do you interact with that? All this kind of stuff, right? And typically, the way that a new member of Congress learns this stuff is by asking an old member of Congress, somebody who's been there for years and years. When you have term limits, and we've seen this happen now in several states, and the term limits were, I believe, in most cases, I think probably in all cases, promoted by Freedom Works, which is the Koch brothers outfit. One of the things that we know is in these states that have put into place term limits, where there are no old timers, when new people come in and they look around and they say, okay, how do I do this job? How do I be a legislator? And there's nobody who's been a legislator for more than a year or two or three or four. They turn to the permanent infrastructure around them, the people who are knocking on their door literally every day, who have been there for decades in many cases, who can tell them how everything works, and those people are the lobbyists. So, in my opinion and in my experience, the only thing that term limits does is increases the power of lobbyists and decreases the institutional power of the two political parties and of the people in them. And of course, that's exactly what the Koch brothers would want. I mean, they're all about lobbying, right? Hey, no fossil fuel tax. So I get this email from FreedomWorks. And it says, I signed up for FreedomWorks' email as Barney Rubble, so it comes to Barney Rubble. Barney, this is disturbing. That was the headline. In fact, the headline said, I don't think this is right, Barney. Can you take a look at it? And so I looked at it, and it says, it's got the FreedomWorks logo. And it says, Barney, this is disturbing. Nancy Pelosi's been in office 32 years, Maxine Waters 28 years, Sheila Jackson-Lee 24 years, Elijah Cummings 23 years, Adam Schiff 18 years, Debbie Wasserman Schultz 14 years. It says these career politicians are in super safe districts, meaning they can stay in office for the rest of their lives. This has got to stop. Take action. Tell your members of Congress to support term limits. Thankfully, conservative champion Ted Cruz has a bill circulating Congress to finally put term limits on Congress. But Chuck Schumer and his swamp senators are doing everything to prevent Senator Cruz's bill from receiving a vote. And if you stay silent now, they'll kill this bill and let career politicians continue to run Congress. Don't let it happen. Don't let them get away with it. Please send your members of Congress a message. Tell them to stand with Senator Cruz and drain the D.C. swamp. Tell them to support term limits for Congress now. I can tell you the one guy who doesn't want to be term limited is Ted Cruz. But in any case, term limits are not the solution. We have term limits right now. They are called, they're called elections. But, the people over at FreedomWorks not all excited about that. So there is that. I tweeted a couple of days ago, actually, Lawrence Tribe tweeted something out about authoritarianism. And this is another thing that, if you want to call and comment on, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think that America is turning in an authoritarian direction? Is this something we can pull back from? Or is this something we are stuck with? Have we become an authoritarian nation? Are we traveling down the road to ending up like Egypt or the Philippines, like Duterte or Erdogan? And Lawrence Tribe had tweeted, in Trump and Barr's America, it looks like the executive branch has finally claimed it can defy not only the legislative branch, but the judicial branch as well. Isn't that called a dictatorship? Please tell me what I'm missing here. And this is from Jennifer Rubin. Or actually, it's from Lawrence Tribe. He tweeted it to Jennifer Rubin. And so I retweeted that, and I said, authoritarianism nakedly comes to America. Next will be military parades and dear leaders speeches on the 4th of July, and the persecution of political enemies, the same way that Trump took down the main counterintelligence people at the FBI who specialized in Eastern European and Russian organized crime. And then Spit and Lion sends me a quote from Vermont Congressman Matthew Lyon. And this is remarkable because I've written about Matthew Lyon at some length. Matthew Lyon was the congressman from Vermont who stood up in the House of Representatives in 1799 and maybe in 98. It was after after John Adams passed the Alien and Sedition, or excuse me, yeah, the Alien and Sedition Act, which basically said that if you spoke against John Adams, you were committing sedition and you could go to jail. And Matthew Lyon got up on the floor of Congress and gave a speech. And the congressman from Connecticut, his name was Griswold, was so offended by this speech that he came across the floor of the House with a poker, a fireplace poker in his hand, to whack Matthew Lyon upside the head. And I'd never seen the speech before, but apparently this is it. Fellow citizen, you came to the administration, sir, under the most favorable auspices at the time when this no, this is 1801. This is his talking to Jefferson. When this country was considered an asylum for the... No, this is Adams. When this country was considered an asylum for the oppressed of all nations, and there was a great influx of foreign riches, industry, and ingenuity. When this country was happy in the freedom of speech and of the press. When the Constitution was considered a barrier against legislative, executive, and judicial encroachments. Before offices, places, and contracts were considered as the executive right of the favorite caste. Reflect a little, sir, and see this awful change you made 4 short years. Your mad zeal for monarchy, your love for pomp, your unhappy selection of favorites, your regardlessness of the public treasure has divided the people into parties and fostered among them envy, malice, and rancorous hatred toward each other. Tell me that is not Donald Trump?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's really pretty amazing when you think about it. It really is. We'll be back with more your calls and the news of the day. Stick around. So this was Matthew Lyon. Matthew Lyon. It's just an amazing story about Matthew Lyon. When Griswold came across the house after him with a poker, right? They actually got into a fight, and the sergeant-at-arms of the house came in and broke it up. And on the orders of John Adams, of the President of the United States, because Matthew Lyon had called out Roger Griswold saying, "You only defend the interests of the rich." That was his phrase that he had accused Griswold of. Griswold attacked him. And John Adams had him shipped off to Vermont, which is the state that Matthew Lyon represented. He was their single representative in the House of Representatives. And John Adams had him shipped off to Vergennes, Vermont, and stuck in a jail, in an unheated jail cell, for the winter. And Matthew Lyon so this was March 4th. This would have been the week that the last week of the John Adams presidency that he gave the speech that I just read to you. But he ran for re-election in Vermont to the House of Representatives from jail and won, which is how he got back to the House to give this speech, which is, pretty astonishing. So are we there now? I mean, do you think that I'm frankly very concerned that Donald Trump is talking about locking up his political enemies. And that's like dangerous stuff, locking up your political enemies. This is what authoritarians do. They lock up their political enemies. They do not brook or pardon or allow any dissent. And this should concern and trouble all of us, frankly. I mean, this I think is a big deal. It's a big concern that we need to take very, very seriously. So, in my opinion, do you think that Donald Trump is just a blowhard? Do you think that he's just blowing off steam? And, Yeah, somebody called last week and said, "You going to do Anything Goes summer?" I think we will. I think we will. So if there's anything else that you want to talk about, feel free to give us a shout, and we can carry on with there. I've got some incredible geeky science stories too, but and Seth Abramson connecting the dots. Did you know that there were 6 countries who hacked our election, not just Russia? I mean, this is pretty amazing too. The whole idea that our election, I'm not talking about the internet shutdown, from last week or last weekend. I'm talking about the election, that it wasn't just Russia. And in fact, it's starting to look like there was actually a 6-nation, I don't know if conspiracy is the right word, or pact or collaborative effort to basically get Donald Trump elected, so that the foreign policy of the United States would shift from being supportive of liberal democracies in Europe and in favor of more authoritarian regimes like Russia and the UAE and Israel. It's pretty breathtaking. I'll share it with you after the break. It's 22 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And boy, what a fascinating day, and what a time to be alive here in the United States. Philip in Baltimore. Hey, Philip, your thoughts on the internet?
Yeah, I don't know if you know it, but Baltimore's internet for the city was brought down by hackers on the 7th, and it's still down right now. They're holding the city hostage for $100,000, and it's supposedly going to cost us millions. And the mayor has asked the governor to get national disaster money. We didn't get our water bills this month. You can't sell or buy a house. You can't pay parking tickets. The whole city infrastructure.
But this is one of those ransomware attacks?
Yes, it came from the software came from NSA,
right?
And they're trying to blame Baltimore. They're saying Baltimore didn't update, but NSA shouldn't have made software,
right.
And it's still down.
That's
I
incredible.
still can't pay bills.
That is incredible. And
they're mentioned on the news.
Yeah, and what happens if this goes national? I mean, they're trying to make it national, but I mean, what happens if it's, wow, that's incredible, an entire city shut down, Baltimore. What if it was the entire state of Maryland?
Well, it's just the city. It's just but it's what if they said if they didn't pay it within 4 days, they said the information would be lost.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's gone or what, if will they start our water bills over, or will I don't know. They aren't talking about it. They really aren't. You hear little bits and pieces about it, but to pay bills now, you have to go to City Hall. You can't pay by phone. You can't pay on the internet.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is a pain.
Yeah.
And this is a major city. I mean,
it's got to be.
There's 3 million people in our metropolitan area.
Yeah, it's got to be a total pain in the butt. Philip, thank you. Thanks for the heads up on that. That's fascinating. There's the story that I had was Zero Hedge. I got off Drudge. I understand there's also a story about this over at Daily Beast, but they won't let me view their website because I use a ad blocker, so I can't share the Daily Beast story with you. Ed in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Hey, Ed, what's up?
Oh, hi, Tom. About 6 months ago, it occurred to me that it was totally legal for the president to take over the country. I discovered the way. It's the National Emergency Act allows the president to suspend the Constitution in times of national emergency.
Right.
Once he does that, he could say just suspend Article 1 and Article 3. Get rid of the Congress, get rid of the court system. Then he becomes the sole authority.
I don't think the National Emergency Act gives him the power to suspend any part of the Constitution.
Other
than maybe habeas corpus.
I heard that on the radio, like in 1980 when I was in the Air Force. I was just walking around doing something, and they said, the last part of the blah, blah, blah law has been, and the last law has been finally passed that now allows the president to totally suspend the Constitution should a national, say Washington gets nuclear bombed or something, he declares a national emergency, suspends the Constitution.
Yeah.
And
Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, during the Civil War, and I don't recall if the Supreme Court backed him on that or opposed him on it, but he did it, and it's in the Constitution. Habeas corpus is in the Constitution. It's in the, in other words, the right to, if you're seized by the government, you have the right to face your accusers. You have the right, you have these basic, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendment constitutional rights that comprise all that. Ed, I got to look into that. Thanks a lot for the call. The states of emergency confer extraordinary power on governors and on presidents. And, Trump declared a state of emergency in order to grab money for his border wall, remember? Anyhow, we'll continue the conversation, and we've got more news of the day right after this break. Stick around.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's 28 minutes, or coming up on 28 minutes past the hour here in the Thom Hartmann Program. Viagra for your brain. Just don't tell Limbaugh, he'll want some. So I remember when I was a kid, this advertisement on TV and on radio, actually, for gum, chewing gum. It was Wrigley's, as I recall. Double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Mint. I don't even know if they still make the gum, but today is our Double Your Pleasure, Double Your Fun Day, to steal an old, probably trademarked line. Because Azra in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Andrew in San Diego, and Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio, and thank you to each one of you, put together a match that adds up to $10,000. So any gift you give today up to $10,000 will be doubled. So your $10 becomes $20, your $100 becomes $200, your $500 becomes $1,000, your $1,000 becomes $2,000, et cetera. And in terms of the money that goes to Free Speech TV. So today is a great day to contribute. It's a great day to call 877-378-8669. I better say that again, 877-378-8669. A great day to call and put down your marker, right? Say your pledge, and double your pleasure and double your fun by doubling your match. So here we go. It's a great time to call. Also, you can donate at freespeech.org. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program Fair and Slightly Unbalanced bumper sticker. With the $72 gift, you get my book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, which was released today. Today is the day that the book goes out. So that's kind of cool. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of A Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With $20 a month, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, this is an ongoing pledge commitment, and these are very important, these $20 and $30 a month pledge commitments. With a $30 a month pledge commitment, you get both the stainless steel water bottle and the Thom Hartmann tote bag. With a $500 gift, you can participate in our virtual meet and greet, and on Monday of next week, come to Washington, D.C., and if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're going to be in Washington, D.C., this is June 10th, in the hour before I do a book signing at Busboys and Poets on K Street in Washington, D.C., we will have a meet and greet just for Free Speech TV donors who made a gift of $500 or more. So your choice, virtual meet and greet, in other words, hang out, get together, off-the-record conversation with me, or a meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and hang out with us. And of course, you can give more than that. And today is a great day to do it, because whatever you give will be doubled. The bottom line is it's really, really important that we maintain this television network, that we keep it going forward. Free Speech TV is such an important media outlet. It's such an important television network. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a television network, and it's a nationwide television network, and now with the internet, a worldwide television network. Broadcasting, promoting, sharing a genuine progressive message from a wide variety of hosts, representing a diverse cross-section of America that's growing even more diverse as we continue to add new shows. So just a lot of really extraordinary stuff here on Free Speech TV, and a lot of great programming from the very best news that you can find literally anywhere. I mean, Amy Goodman's newscast every day, in my opinion, beats anything out there. It beats the network news, it beats PBS, it beats NPR. It certainly beats anything we're doing in terms of news reporting. This show is not a news show as much as it is an opinion show. So we, pick up the news stories of the day, but, I rant about them. But if you really want the news, there you go. That's Democracy Now! Is just one heck of a program. And then you've got a lot of people who are talking about the news, which is, pretty much most of the rest of us on Free Speech TV. Amy is kind of our Walter Cronkite, and we're the commentators. And it's just an amazing thing that has been pulled together over all these years by this relatively small group of people in Denver who run this network, make this happen, and are just doing an absolutely spectacular job. So please call now, 877-378-8669. You can also donate online at freespeech.org, 877-378-8669. You probably heard that telephone number so many times today that you have it memorized. But it's particularly important now. And if you call during our program gets the benefits of that. We get the credit for it, as it were. And that's a good thing too. It's kind of your vote for our show, and we appreciate that very much when you call during our program, when our program is live, or if you call in some other time and say, I'm calling because I saw the Thom Hartmann program. So whether you go to freespeech.org, whether you call 877-378-8669, today is a great day to give because of the generosity of Azra. I hope I'm saying that right, in Oak Brook, Illinois, Andrew in San Diego, Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio. Please call now, please.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I may be coming to your city soon on our book tour for The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. I'll be in New York, Washington, D.C., Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Here I come. More information is available at thomhartmann.com. Yep, get ready for exhausted, traveled out Tom. No, actually, I love this stuff. It's great fun going on book tour. Let's see, today is Tuesday, right? Yeah, Thursday night, I'll be in New York City and at the Strand bookstore in Manhattan at 7:30 p.m. And then the following Monday, I'll be in Washington, D.C. at Busboys and Poets at 6:30. And then the following Wednesday, I'll be back here in Portland and signing books at Powell's. No, not Powell's. Yeah, Powell's. I mix up my bookstores. At Powell's here in Portland. And I've done book signings there before, and it's always been, a hoot. It's been fascinating stuff. So anyhow, welcome back. A lot going on in the world today. Pat in Seattle. Hey, Pat, what's on your mind today?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I have a question, pretty straightforward question. A couple of weeks ago, I heard on the news somewhere that Barr went to Trump, not vice versa, and basically had Trump use executive order to allow Barr to have access to intelligence reports. And then after that, I heard two different kind of rationales for why Barr would want that information. But one of the pundits, somebody said it was facts to get names. Perhaps this is one reason he did it, to be able to have access to the early intel reports, to find out who was spying on Trump during the campaign. And then somebody else had a different reason, and I can't remember that reason. But in any case, what they said was, this is such a it's just astounding and astonishing that an attorney general would not have access normally ever. Could you comment on that a little bit?
Yeah. To the best of my knowledge,
offline.
there has never been a situation where an attorney general was given that kind of access. It was shocking to the intelligence community, and the continues to echo through. So you've got that, number one. Number two, the second level of speculation, the first level of speculation is, we're going to punish the people who investigated us, and I think that's absolutely true. And so, although they already have punished a number of those people, that was, Mr. McCabe, Andrew McCabe, I believe his name is, who was the head of counterintelligence at the FBI. He was the number one guy who was looking into Russian attempts to spy on the United States. And Trump took him out. Peter Strzok was the number two guy who was looking into Russia. They took him out. Lisa Page was part of that team. They took her out. James Comey was investigating. He started the investigation into the links between Russia and the Trump campaign. Trump took him out, and so there's that. So there is this secondary theory that by giving Bill Barr, who, by the way, is a member of Opus Dei, is a very political, hardcore right-wing Catholic, and in tight with these guys. One of these people who thinks that who believes in the good lie, right? In other words, if we're going to save babies by banning abortion, and we have to lie to people to make that happen, that's a fine thing. That's just great. Bill Barr has been a hardcore right-wing political activist for a long, long time. In addition to being, extraordinarily corrupt. I mean, going back to as Lamar was talking about last week, the Kennedy assassination and then the Iran-Contra thing. So, but Seth Abramson's coming up with a third theory, which kind of ties into the second theory, which is, which the second theory, by the way, just to say it very clearly, is that Trump wants the name of the spy that we have in the Kremlin who fed the Mueller investigation the information about what's going on inside the Kremlin. I mean, the indictments that came out of Mueller were very specific. They named names. They talked about what day so-and-so said what inside the Kremlin or inside the Moscow, the Internet Research Agency and whatnot. He has indicted, as I recall, a dozen Russian intelligence officers. How did he get that information? Well, we've got a spy inside the Kremlin, obviously. And if Trump can get the name of that spy, if Bill Barr can get that by going to the CIA and saying, who is this guy? And then he gives it to Trump, then Trump can give it to Putin. Just like Trump gave Putin our intelligence from Israel. Or he gave it to Kislyak, the Russian ambassador. So there's that. Okay, so this third level of this, which I find even more mind-boggling, is what Seth Abramson is tweeting and writing about. And you can easily find this on Twitter. And, he asks the question, a couple of kind of connect-the-dot questions. And he says, why would Jared Kushner be put in charge of Middle East peace? He has no experience negotiating peace treaties. I mean, why not get somebody who's, has at least experience with the State Department, somebody who knows what they're doing? When you get a negotiator, being a negotiator is that's like being a brain surgeon. I mean, it's a very specific type of job. So why would Kushner be put in charge of something that he has no skills and no experience in? Number two, why was Kushner trying to get a secure back channel to communicate with Russia? We know that he was trying to do that. I mean, that has been reported widely. It has never been denied. Why was he trying to get a back channel to communicate with Russia that the United States government couldn't listen on? And what was the deal with this meeting in the Seychelles, this island off the coast of Spain, as I recall, that featured Eric Prince and George Nader, and who's an agent of, he's kind of an agent for hire, and and agents of several other governments. What was going on? Well, what Abramson is saying, and it's very straightforward, is that it wasn't Russia that hacked the U.S. election. It was 6 countries. And that this plot was hatched. I'm quoting from Seth Abramson. He says 6 nations hatched the plot to elect Trump. The plot was hatched in 2015. The nations involved were Russia, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt. The leaders of these countries were all involved. 3 of these 6 nations, Russia, Israel, and the UAE, had infiltrated deep into the Trump campaign by March of 2016. Russia through Dmitry Simes, the UAE through Youssef Otaiba, and Israel through Kushner. The campaign and Groner and Birnbaum. The campaign, and keep in mind, when Jared Kushner was a kid, Bibi Netanyahu used to sleep in his bedroom. Or his guest room. So the campaign understood the plans that these nations had. So the Trump campaign apparently knew that Russia, Israel, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Egypt wanted Donald Trump in the White House and were going to work to help him get there. He goes on, this Seth Abramson, the Trump campaign became aware of the plan via many interlocutors, Kushner, Flynn, Nader, Manafort, Otaiba, Simes, Birnbaum, Barak, and others. The plan was seen as a grand bargain and sometimes called that. Other times it was called the Middle East Marshall Plan. And by March of 2016, Russia had become the first nation with a man in, Dmitry Simes, inside the campaign, although you could argue Kushner saw himself as an unofficial agent of Israel prior to that. By April 2016, Israel had a man in via Birnbaum. This is inside the Trump campaign. And by May 2017, the UAE had a man in with Otaiba. If Abramson, and then, a commentary here from Mind Matter over at Daily Kos, if Abramson's correct in his inferences, and I think he probably is, specifically 3 questions make sense, those 3 questions. Why was Kushner put in charge of Middle Eastern policy and all this kind of stuff? Kushner was put in charge of Middle East peace, not to broker a deal, but to carry out the wishes of these 3 nations that attacked the United States: Russia, Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. The need for a secure back channel becomes obvious, as this is treason beyond anything ever known in this country. And the Seychelles Rogue Gallery is not a collection of rogues after all. It's a meeting of the key players in this conspiracy, in this attack. And Seth asks, why is this not getting more attention? It's literally on the back page of the New York Times. So, I realize you asked me what time it is, and I told you how to build a clock, but that's my take on it. Paul in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to address term limits. In Philadelphia, we just had primaries, and one of the main contenders for city council promoted term limits as one of his key policy items to help make Philadelphia new and improved.
Right.
He happens to be a filthy rich real estate developer, a long time. They call him the king of condos. I won't mention his name, but people in Philadelphia know who he is.
Right.
And on the whole, he's a pretty decent guy. But there seems to be this blind spot in the liberal and the left of center activist community about term limits. They actually think that politics is a cesspool of corruption that can be corrected by term limits. And I'm watching you, and it sounds like I'm talking to me when I said, yeah, we have term limits. They're called elections.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And if somebody's doing a good job, you want them to come back. And you want to have institutional memory in all of these institutions. And the lobbyists don't want there to be institutional memory. They want to be the institutional memory. So they'll be the ones who tell people how to do things. And, of course, then they'll be done in ways that are friendly to the lobbyists. So spot on, Paul, and good on you. The question is, how do we get the word out? I mean, term limits sound so good. Oh, yeah, drain the swamp. It's just...
Well, you go online to your local newspapers, because the editorial board of the Enquirer in Philadelphia came up with a big stance against long-term standing politicians. They want term limits.
Oh, jeez. Write letters to the editor. Paul, I got to run. I'm sorry, but letters to the editor is a great start. Paul, thank you so much. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
45 minutes past the hour, taking your calls right after this. And welcome back. Gil in Battleground, Washington. Hey, Gil, what's on your mind today?
I was thinking that Trump, under no circumstances will he leave office, and I think that he will do whatever it takes to remain president, and he'll leave only under his terms. And I don't think that the Democrats understand what's going to happen. I was wondering if you think the Democrats understand the seriousness of the situation.
I think this is where Fox News, this is where Rupert Murdoch holds the fate and future of this country in his hands. If Donald Trump loses the 2020 election, and there's a high probability of that happening, although, you know, I could make an argument that he's going to win too. But in any case, if he loses, and he says, and he comes out and says, okay, I lost because of, you know, pick a state, right? You know, let's say that he loses because Michigan didn't go his way. And he says, I lost because, you know, because of Michigan. But in Michigan, you know, you've got a Democratic governor, and they rigged the vote there, and you can't trust that vote. And so I'm not going to leave office because I know that this was rigged, and I'm president of the United States, and I know more than anybody, and I have access to all the intelligence, quack, quack, quack. And he starts building this case, right, which I fully expect would be the case, Gil. And I'm guessing that's what you're saying, too. If Fox News goes along with him and says, yeah, he was screwed, he deserves to be president for another 4 years, and I could see them doing this because they want to finish stacking the courts, but, you know, particularly the Supreme Court. If Fox News goes along with him on this, it will be the end of our republic. If Fox News doesn't go along with him, it'll be the end of Donald Trump. And I can't think of any other force that'll be powerful enough to support him in doing that or to oppose him in doing that. What do you think, Gil?
I think Trump would, even if Fox News didn't support him, would still figure out a way to retain the presidency because he understands that he is no longer president. Everybody's waiting for him with all of these cases against him.
Yeah. I think, you know, there's the question of whether, he's looking at a lot, he's looking at prison once he gets out of the White House, frankly. I mean, you know, the thing that Michael Cohen is sitting in prison right now for is a crime that Donald Trump ordered him to commit. And so, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there's a sealed indictment someplace against Donald Trump, particularly at the state level. But, you know, if he refuses to leave, it's going to be, boy, it's going to be a crisis.
I don't think there's a good mechanism to get him out if he decides not to leave and comes up with, here's why I'm not leaving, and sticks to it.
The Secret Service is part of the executive branch. You know, the judiciary really has no military. They have no power, as you know, as we've discussed before, and the legislature has no power, you know, or no police power anyway. The fist of the U.S. government is held almost exclusively by the second branch, by the Article II branch, by the executive branch. The question is, would they go along with it? You know, would the Secret Service and the military support and defend him, or would they turn their back on him? And I don't know the answer to that question. I thought, you know, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, it's a no-brainer. But you hear these reports from soldiers who have called into this program who say, oh, yeah, everybody in my company loved, you know, or my platoon or battalion or whatever, loves Donald Trump. I mean, you saw those soldiers in the USS Wasp wearing Make America Great patches sewn onto their uniforms. It's scary stuff. Gil, thank you for the call. We'll be back. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Judy in Pine, Colorado. Hey, Judy, what's up?
Hi. Well, I'm wondering, since I've been saying for a while that Israel and the Saudis were a part of helping Donald get elected. It wasn't just Russia.
Right.
But why are Democrats helping Donald? They are protecting him. Pelosi is protecting him.
No, she's not.
If they really want the American people to know what's going on, they would start the impeachment process so that the American people would hear everything with hearings.
Yeah, Judy, they have started the impeachment process.
Completely, nobody hears anything.
Judy, they have started the impeachment process. They've already started it with these hearings. You've got half a dozen different committees that are holding hearings right now and investigating Donald Trump.
But we're going to hear nothing about the hearing.
Well, you don't know what you're going to hear. You don't know what you're going to hear. They have been unable to get, during the Nixon impeachment hearings, which lasted 6 months, by the way. And public opinion for Nixon's impeachment went from 19% to 67% during those 6 months because there were public hearings. And that's why Bill Barr and Donald Trump are preventing people like Hope Hicks and whatnot from testifying. And Bill Barr, for that matter, won't show up and testify. But, they're going to start with John Dean later this week or next week. It's the 11th. I don't know what day of the week is the 11th. That's next Tuesday. They're going to start with John Dean. And this is the beginning of the process, Judy, and this is the appropriate way to do the process. You have to inform the American people. This is not Nancy Pelosi is bad. This is frankly, it's the media is bad and Bill Barr is worse. Bill Barr lied to us about what was in the Mueller report and then made us sit on that lie for weeks. I think it was a month and a half before the whole thing came out. And that was long enough to just burn it into America's brains that, oh, there's no there there, which was a lie. Bill Barr lied to us, our Attorney General. So anyhow, Donald in Studio City, California. Hey, Donald, what's on your mind today?
Yes, Tom. I've been taping Sean Hannity show, and night after night he talks about going after going after the kind of nervous
rogue investigators in the FBI.
Yes, and they want to, of course, indict them, and put them in jail.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard, and what was so funny about it, because Bob Barr came out and says, "Well, I'm still looking. I'm still looking."
Right.
And he's looking for the reason that the FISA warrant was issued for Carter Page.
Well, we know what that reason was. It's right there in the Mueller report. It's on page 79 or 78.
Yeah.
I mean, I just read it on the air a couple of days ago. It's like,
right.
Carter Page told the ambassador from Australia that the Russians had dirt on, had the Hillary Clinton emails, and he told his government, and his government told our government. That's in the Mueller report.
I understand, but that's not Sean Hannity night after night lying and saying that the main reason that these judges, sometimes he doesn't even mention how many judges, gave the FISA warrant, the FISA warrant approved of it for Carter Page because of the Christopher Steele dossier.
Yeah.
He says that night after night.
That's bizarre. The Steele dossier was long after the fact. I mean, that stuff all came out long after, well, actually maybe it was before, but that was not the inciting incident. That was not the thing that triggered it. It was George Papadopoulos telling this Australian ambassador, and it's right there. I mean, that's amazing. Donald, thanks for the report from Foxland. It's bizarre. Sam in Valencia, California. Hey, Sam, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good.
So I was just, reference to internet insecurity. All of the motherboards for, PCs, servers, et cetera, as well as all our Apple devices and whatever are manufactured over in China. And I don't know how much security we have over the manufacturing process there. And in fact, I've read some articles that there's been cases where insiders have embedded essentially backdoors onto the motherboards of these, and then ultimately become computers on, here in the United States.
Right.
And then all it takes is a simple ping back as soon as the machine gets powered up. Furthermore, you can't reinstall the operating system because that doesn't do any good because these are fundamentally on the motherboard itself.
Right, they're in the chips. It's firmware. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
in firmware. Exactly. So just
that is something that has concerned me for years. I mean, there was some evidence back. Geez, this was 15 years, maybe 20 years ago. That there were companies in China making computers that had backdoors in them, but that story didn't last very long. I'm not sure it was absolutely corroborated, but. Scary stuff, Sam. This is one of the reasons why George Washington wanted America to manufacture its own goods, and why we held that we held that as an ideal right up through the Jimmy Carter administration. And then Reagan came along and said, we don't need manufacturing anymore. And then, Bill Clinton said the same thing. Oh, white collar jobs are the future. And what are we left with? Computers that might have back doors in them. Yeah, spot on. Sam, thanks for the call. Robbie in Portland. Hey, Robbie, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I just had a few things to address really quick. Earlier this week, you were saying that Ronald Reagan's policies were neoliberal. They're neoconservative. Neoliberals who want Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton are.
No, the neoconservatives are the warmongers, and as far as Reagan went with that was attacking Grenada.
Anyway. Okay, well, anyway.
I think H.W. Bush was a neoconservative.
Are neoliberals. George Bush was a neoconservative. Okay, but moving along, Noam Chomsky has a very respected opinion on the Russian and election interference, and I just wanted to say, you brought up that there are 6 countries that were hacking our democracy, right?
Right.
That was because of Reality Winner, was it not?
Well, I think Reality Winner was one of the people who exposed this, and she is now in prison.
Right. So I guess. Wait, hang on, Tom. I wanted to say that.
I'm sorry. It's the end of the hour. I have no control over it. And Robbie, next time you call, pick one topic. We basically one topic per person. So anyhow, we'll be back. We're gonna talk with Julio Rivera. Is the right to own a gun and the right to have health care, which of these should be rights and which of these should be privileges? Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you. So I remember when I was a kid, this advertisement on TV and on radio, actually, for gum, chewing gum. It was Wrigley's, as I recall. Double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Mint. I don't even know if they still make the gum, but today is our Double Your Pleasure, Double Your Fun Day, to steal an old, probably trademarked line, because Azra in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Andrew in San Diego, and Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio, and thank you to each one of you, put together a match that adds up to $10,000. So any gift you give today up to $10,000 will be doubled. So your $10 becomes $20, your $100 becomes $200, your $500 becomes $1,000, your $1,000 becomes $2,000, et cetera. And in terms of the money that goes to Free Speech TV. So today is a great day to contribute. It's a great day to call 877-378-8669 I better say that again, 877-378-8669. A great day to call and put down your marker, right? Say your pledge and double your pleasure and double your fun by doubling your match. So here we go. It's a great time to call. Also, you can donate at freespeech.org. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program Fair and Slightly Unbalanced bumper sticker. With the $72 gift, you get my book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, which was released today. Today is the day that the book goes out. So that's kind of cool. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of A Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With $20 a month, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, this is an ongoing pledge commitment, and these are very important, these $20 and $30 a month pledge commitments. With a $30 a month pledge commitment, you get both the stainless steel water bottle and the Thom Hartmann tote bag. With a $500 gift, you can participate in our virtual meet and greet, and on Monday of next week, come to Washington, D.C., and if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're going to be in Washington, D.C., this is June 10th. In the hour before I do a book signing at Busboys and Poets on K Street in Washington, D.C., we will have a meet and greet just for Free Speech TV donors who made a gift of $500 or more. So your choice, virtual meet and greet, in other words, hang out, get together, off-the-record conversation with me, or a meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and hang out with us. You know, it's and of course you can give more than that. And today is a great day to do it because whatever you give will be doubled. The bottom line is it's really, really important that we maintain this television network, that we keep it going forward. Free Speech TV is such an important media outlet. It's such an important television network. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a television network, and it's a nationwide television network, and now with the internet, a worldwide television network. Broadcasting, promoting, sharing a genuine progressive message from a wide variety of hosts, representing a diverse cross-section of America that's growing even more diverse as we continue to add new shows. So just a lot of really extraordinary stuff here on Free Speech TV and a lot of great programming from the very best news that you can find literally anywhere. I mean, Amy Goodman's newscast every day, in my opinion, beats anything out there. It beats the network news, it beats PBS, it beats NPR. It certainly beats anything we're doing in terms of news reporting. This show is not a news show as much as it is an opinion show. So we, pick up the news stories of the day, but, I rant about them. But if you really want the news, there you go. That's Democracy Now! Is just one heck of a program. And then you've got a lot of people who are talking about the news, which is, pretty much most of the rest of us on Free Speech TV. Amy is kind of our Walter Cronkite, and we're the commentators. And it's just an amazing thing that has been pulled together over all these years by this relatively small group of people in Denver who run this network, make this happen, and are just doing an absolutely spectacular job. So please call now, 877-378-8669. You can also donate online at freespeech.org, 877-378-8669. You probably heard that telephone number so many times today that you have it memorized. But it's particularly important now. And if you call during our program gets the benefits of that. We get the credit for it, as it were. And that's a good thing too. It's kind of your vote for our show, and we appreciate that very much when you call during our program, when our program is live, or if you call in some other time and say, I'm calling because I saw the Thom Hartmann program. So whether you go to freespeech.org, whether you call 877-378-8669, today is a great day to give because of the generosity of Azra. I hope I'm saying that right, in Oak Brook, Illinois, Andrew in San Diego, Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio. Please call now, please.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And, we've been discussing Trump and the Six Nation conspiracy to get him elected and Seth Abramson and all this kind of stuff. Also, a little bit about guns. Today is the day that my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, is shipping. Today's the official publication date. I have an article over at Alternet and also at Common Dreams titled How Guns Literally Go to Men's Heads that I think you might find fascinating. We talked about it a few days ago. And on the line with us right now is Julio Rivera, editorial director at Reactionary Times, columnist at Newsmax, American Thinker and Townhall.com, reactionarytimes.com. The website Twitter handle is Oh Yeah, It's Julio. And Julio, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me, as always.
It is great talking with you. Our video director, Nate, was just making the comment before we came on the air. Of course, you're coming in by video for the people watching us. That you're the most. What was the word you used? Stylish? Yeah, the most stylish conservative that we've ever had. It's like.
Thank you. Well, I try not to dress like a conservative.
Yeah, it was a compliment. So, guns and healthcare, rights and privileges. A right is something that we all agree is something that the government should protect. The government may not infringe on a right. I have a right to speak in the public square, essentially, or I have a right to free speech, and that can't be infringed upon unless there's a really good reason, like yelling fire in a crowded theater. But I don't have a right to own a car. I have a right, arguably, to drive one with a license, but I don't have the right. So that's a privilege. So healthcare and guns, which of these is a right and which is a privilege in your world?
Well, that's changed a lot. I mean, and I just want to clarify a couple things. Yes, rights are, we're born with rights, supposedly. They're natural, constitutionally, there's a certain set of rights that we have. Privileges are conditional after birth. That's more or less the way I define it. But the way that, if you look at, in practical application, the way that things are now, guns are supposedly a right, but it's very difficult in many locations to even get your hands on a gun, not to mention the cost involved, as far as what a gun costs, what it, register, licensure.
Oh, yeah, a new gun can cost more than a used car. It's amazing.
Exactly, yeah. But then
these companies are making a lot of money, Julio, which of course they're cycling through the NRA and a whole bunch of Republican politicians. But anyhow, as you were saying.
Okay, as I was saying, as far as healthcare now, healthcare is actually kind of turned more into a right when you consider the subsidies that are given out for people who can't afford healthcare. There's a lot of people who more easily...
Except in Republican states.
Huh?
Except in Republican states. In Republican states, they've pulled the plug on that. You can still get a subsidy under Obamacare, but if you're poor, if you make less than, it depends on the state, but typically less than around $10,000 or $12,000 a year, you're working and you're making more than the $2,000 or $3,000 a year, that qualifies you for the absolute poverty level stuff. But if you're the working poor, you don't get Medicaid, you don't get that in, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida. I mean, pick your state, right?
That is true. But I mean, I don't know. At this point, I mean, rights don't mean what they used to mean. I mean, I think the government's gotten too powerful. And as far as like look at the Second Amendment issue, like in New Jersey, it's very difficult. You have to go through a lot of steps to get a gun in New Jersey. There's other states, however, where you could just walk into Walmart and walk out with pretty much arm a militia. So I mean, it does vary from state to state. So I don't think across the board it's the same. But I mean, in terms of healthcare, though, there's the one issue that I wanted to, or the one point I want to make kind of with you. We have a services-based economy now. This is a service that is a very valuable service that it takes highly skilled personnel to sort of, to be able to provide, healthcare to people, doctors. They go through a lot. So there's a cost to that, because their education and their level of training and expertise is so high. It becomes difficult to sit there and say, well, as a government, we can guarantee healthcare as a right for people. I mean, we know that doctors in our country weren't exactly ecstatic about Obamacare, and there were a lot of doctors that resigned. They refused to work under that system once that was announced.
Really, name one.
The daughters. Well, I know several in New Jersey, but what I'm saying is as far as we were already working with a doctor shortage. If you're talking about providing health care, like socialized medicine, which, you like to talk about, your buddy Bernie Sanders likes to talk about, it's next to impossible. We just don't have the workforce to provide reasonable health care in that manner.
Okay, so we can't have health care as a right in the United States. A, because we're not smart enough. We can't figure out how to do it. This was Trump's argument. America's unique. Every other developed country in the world has health care, universal health care as a right, and 100% of the citizens. We're literally, out of the 34 OECD countries, there's only one where you can go broke if you get sick, and that's the United States. So A, we're not smart enough, and B, it's too complicated. Is that your argument?
Well, the other thing is too. Sorry, let's say we tried to execute that. Let's say that we created, government-run medical schools, and we started training these people like as GSs, and just made them government employees. More or less an expansion of kind of what's going on with the VA, right? Would the type of candidates that we would field would probably be significantly worse.
Did we just change the discussion from how should we have health care to how should we educate doctors? I don't think the education of doctors. I mean, I'm with you that there's a shortage of doctors and that the AMA has created this shortage. They're a very, very powerful organization, and over the years, since the 40s, I believe, maybe before that even, the AMA has they're a certifying agency for medical schools. You have to have AMA certification, and they will only grant it to a certain number of schools and based on a certain number of students, because they're trying to keep the supply of doctors low so that the pay for doctors is high. In most other countries, doctors, I lived in Germany for a year. Where I lived, there was a health clinic that was part of this nonprofit organization that I was working with. And the doctor there, Dr. Geert, he and I became very, very good friends. And, he made I think he made $106,000 a year. That number sticks in my head, but it was in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year. That's also the neighborhood of what cops in Stadtsteinach or in Kulmbach, the next big town over, were making. I mean, cops and doctors are paid about the same in most of Europe. They have very, very high standards for cops. It takes several years of college, and they have high standards for doctors, too. That seems like a reasonable thing to me, Julio. You realize if you have more doctors, you're going to have lower doctor pay. What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, you have to find the individuals that are willing to go through the years and years of training. And
I absolutely agree. But here's a question for you. If you were going to have surgery tomorrow on, whatever, and you had a choice between two doctors, one who went into medicine because she absolutely loved the idea of saving people's lives and loved medicine and knew that she could make a good, healthy living at it, over $100,000 a year, but really loved medicine, or a doctor who went into medicine because he was convinced that if he got a medical degree, he could become a millionaire. Which one of those two doctors would you want doing surgery on you or on your family?
The one that wants to be a millionaire, because you only become a millionaire if you're the best of the best. So I only want the best of the best touching my organs.
So the profit motive will cause people to behave with great competence rather than cover up their mistakes?
No, I think that it'll have them, like you just said, behave the latter. They'll behave with great competence.
You don't think that people, if people think that there's big bucks at stake, that they're gonna lie to people, that they're gonna cheat, that they're gonna cut corners?
You're making an assumption that they're lying.
Well, that's what I see in every place where you've replaced the
that you have to lie.
Well, every place you replace the public good with the profit motive, that's what happens. Look at charter schools. You got charter schools running all kinds of scams. Donald Trump, his school got shut down as a fraud. Why? Because there was profit to be made. On the other hand, in public schools, where you've got teachers who are, you can make a decent living, but you go into it because you love teaching, it's a whole different thing. You don't see these scams.
Well, listen, I've always thought that the teachers and the unions were too strong in guaranteeing their pay structure. I've always felt that the only way that you should get, $100,000 to, work 6 hours a day and have your summers off here in this country, basically at taxpayer expense, is only if you're truly the best of the best.
I don't know of any teachers making $100,000 in a public school or even in a charter school.
I know plenty.
Maybe in some big cities, but
are you still stuck in the 70s where you live in Oregon?
No, what I know is that on average, that the median income for somebody with a master's degree, which is what's required in many states to teach now, the median income for somebody with a master's degree is $20,000 higher than the median income for a teacher with a master's degree. I know that. And teachers are underpaid, but we've wandered far afield here. Back to the original question: is owning a gun a right or a privilege? Is health, or should be? Let's say should in the United States owning a gun be a right or a privilege? And should access to health care at no cost in the United States be a right or a privilege? Real simple question.
Okay, good question. In this country currently, we're living under the guise that we have a right to guns. I really don't believe that's what it is anymore, and I think it should
No, I get all your qualifications and things, but it sounds to me like the main difference between you and me, what makes you a conservative and what makes me a liberal on these issues, is that I think that health care should be a right and owning a gun should be a privilege, and you think that owning a gun should be a right and health care should be a privilege. Do I have that right?
I mean, if doctors with 10 years of education grew on trees and they were all competent at that level,
like they do in Canada.
I mean, the fact of the matter is the logistics of what it takes to create a doctor and everything that goes into it.
Like in Canada, like in the UK, like in Germany, So again, you want.
I mean, listen, these healthcare systems that you're referencing are not perfect. I mean, there's a lot of people that have a problem with socialized medicine and the way that it's administrated. And a lot
tell
of
that to somebody from the UK. I mean, they are hysterical right now that Donald Trump wants to do a trade agreement that's going to privatize the National Health Service.
Listen, I'm going to be on European. You know what? Ask me this in a year, Tom, because I'm actually relocating to Europe and I'm going to be on European socialized healthcare. So let's see how it works for me.
Well, it should be fascinating. Like as I said, I did that in Germany for a year.
I think I come back and I'm as happy with it as you are.
Yeah, no, you've always been straight with me, Julio, and I appreciate it. Julio Rivera, editorial director of Reactionary Times, columnist with Newsmax, American Thinker, and Townhall.com. The website reactionarytimes.com, and his Twitter handle is OHYEAH. It's Julio, Julio. Julio, thanks so much for dropping by.
No problem. Thank you.
Good talking with you. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a minute.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
What an amazing day, huh? What an amazing day. We'll be right back with your calls. Stick around. It's 18 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. David in Woodland Hills, California. Hey, David, thanks for listening to KPFK. What's up?
The real reason that Trump is pardoning war criminals is for the coup. He's telling the military, I have your back no matter what, as long as you have my back no matter what.
Wow. That makes perfect sense.
Scary sense.
That makes absolutely friggin' perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, why and why did that get no coverage? I mean, he did that on Memorial Day. It's mind-boggling.
Yes.
Huh. Okay, David. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. You kind of made my day, but I appreciate the thought and the feedback. Fascinating. Lisa in Eatonville, Washington. Hey, Lisa, what's on your mind today?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. What I don't understand is if Trump is in bed with Russia and Israel is in bed with Russia, but Russia is in bed with Iran. And what I don't understand is Iran wants Israel wiped off the face of the map. And so why is he and Russia together when Russia's in bed with Iran and Iran wants to get rid of Israel? Why is Israel tied in with all that?
There's a certain point where the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And therefore we can overlook a multitude of sins. Israel's concerned about Iran. Israel knows that Iran is not going to attack Israel, and outside of Hezbollah, doing suicide bombings and stuff like that, which they've got pretty much under control. But they also, under Seth Abramson's conspiracy theory, and that's what it is at this point, but it's got some cogency, I think. These countries, Russia, the UAE, Israel, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, these countries all share one thing in common, and that is a right-wing bent. An authoritarian right-wing bent. The one exception to this, to some extent, would be Israel, where there's still a functioning democracy, but Netanyahu himself is hard to the right, and so this Sunni Israeli-Russian alliance is something that I assuming that it's real, I think something that Iran would have to be concerned about. But Russia was one of the countries. Russia participated in the Iran nuclear deal. The Iran nuclear deal brought Iran, for a time, and should be continuing, closer to the European countries that were involved in it and the United States. The attempt. I just don't think Iran is part of the equation. I think the equation is, the new authoritarian world order, or actually the new Middle East, the new authoritarian Middle Eastern world order. But Lisa, it's a good question. I don't have a specific answer for Russia's disagreement with Israel over Iran outside of they both think that that's under control. Does that make sense?
Well, it was alarming when Iran and Russia wanted to get into Syria, and Netanyahu was looking the other way. I just could not get that at all.
Yeah. Well, see, that would be that would go along with Seth Abrams' conspiracy theory. It's interesting. It's really interesting stuff. Lisa, thank you for the call. And we'll be right back. It's 22 minutes, past the hour. Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com and you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. John in Los Angeles. Hey, John, we were talking earlier about term limits. You want to continue that conversation?
Yes. We already have a problem with term limits because of the presidency. The president that we have right now, I hate to say that sentence like that, but anyway, there's a 2-term limit. But the damage he's done right now is going to take 4 terms to fix.
Yeah, it may. I mean, it took Franklin Roosevelt 4 terms to fix the damage that was done by Herbert Hoover. Excuse me.
I'm right, but here's the question: who limited the president's term limits? And how did they get that done? Was it a convention?
No, it was an amendment to the Constitution, and it was pushed through by the Republicans after the Franklin Roosevelt presidency because they didn't ever want the Democrats to have a president who had more than 2 terms again. They tried to repeal it in the middle of the Reagan second term because they wanted Reagan to run for a 3rd term, and they thought he could win, and probably he could have. He really had the wool pulled over the eyes of the American people, but they were not able to overturn their own constitutional amendment. But that's what's going on, John. Thanks a lot for the call. Maverick in Edmonds, Washington. Hey, Maverick, what's up?
The only thing that evil needs to prevail, Tom, is for good people to do nothing.
Yes.
I believe that. Yeah. I hope to meet you at your book signing in Seattle. I couldn't get a ticket. It's sold out, but I'm going to stand around and see if I can't get in.
Okay.
Will you have books available to buy there?
Yes. As far as I know. I'm not selling books myself, but I think that the bookstores will be there with books. Yeah.
Okay, great. My question, thanks for taking my call. My question is, I haven't been able to figure this out, and I listen to your show every day, and I haven't heard the answer to this. what do Pompeo and Bolton have to gain? What's their motive for their warmongering?
Yeah. I don't know that much about Pompeo. You know, he was a pompous, kind of low-level Republican congressman who got bumped up because he was willing to suck up to Donald Trump. John Bolton, though, has been on my radar for a long, long time, and in fact has been on this program several times. And John Bolton is one of those guys who, when the Vietnam War was going on, he figured, no, I think I'll pass. Don't really want to fight in a war. But once he got old enough to not get drafted, he just decided that he loves war. And this is a common chicken hawk thing, you know, that these guys who have never been in a war, their knowledge of war is not even through the realistic war movies like Deer Killer or Deer Slayer or whatever that was called, but rather the old John Wayne war movies, you know, where, yeah, you know, when somebody gets shot, they just fall over and go, oh, that's it. You know, every one of these chicken hawks, before they call for war, should have to be in a war zone. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that Seth Moulton and Tulsi Gabbard, the two Iraq war veterans who are running for the Democratic nomination for president, are both opposed to war. You see war, you see the horrors of war, and you lose your taste for it. But John Bolton apparently is big time into this stuff. Maverick, thanks for the call. And, you know, I hope to see you in Seattle. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And in the next hour, FYI, we're going to be talking about amending the Constitution to get out money in politics and corporate personhood. Stick around. So I remember when I was a kid, this advertisement on TV and on radio, actually, for gum, you know, chewing gum. It was Wrigley's, as I recall. You know, double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Mint. You know, I don't even know if they still make the gum, but today is our double your pleasure, double your fun day, to steal an old, probably trademarked line. Because Azra in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Andrew in San Diego, and Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio, and thank you to each one of you, put together a match that adds up to $10,000. So any gift you give today up to $10,000 will be doubled. So your $10 becomes $20, your $100 becomes $200, your $500 becomes $1,000, your $1,000 becomes $2,000, et cetera. And in terms of the money that goes to Free Speech TV. So today is a great day to contribute. It's a great day to call 877-378-8669. I better say that again, 877-378-8669. A great day to call and put down your marker, right? Say your pledge and double your pleasure and double your fun by doubling your match. So here we go. It's a great time to call. Also, you can donate at freespeech.org. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program Fair and Slightly Unbalanced bumper sticker. With the $72 gift, you get my book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, which was released today. Today is the day that the book goes out. So that's kind of cool. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of A Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With $20 a month, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, this is an ongoing pledge commitment, and these are very important, these $20 and $30 a month pledge commitments. With a $30 a month pledge commitment, you get both the stainless steel water bottle and the Thom Hartmann tote bag. With a $500 gift, you can participate in our virtual meet and greet, and on Monday of next week, come to Washington, D.C., and if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're going to be in Washington, D.C., this is June 10th, in the hour before I do a book signing at Busboys and Poets on K Street in Washington, D.C., we will have a meet and greet just for Free Speech TV donors who made a gift of $500 or more. So your choice, virtual meet and greet, in other words, hang out, get together, off-the-record conversation with me, or a meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and hang out with us. You know, it's and of course you can give more than that. And today is a great day to do it because whatever you give will be doubled. The bottom line is it's really, really important that we maintain this television network, that we keep it going forward. Free Speech TV is such an important media outlet. It's such an important television network. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a television network, and it's a nationwide television network, and now with the internet, a worldwide television network. Broadcasting, promoting, sharing a genuine progressive message from a wide variety of hosts, representing a diverse cross-section of America that's growing even more diverse as we continue to add new shows. So just a lot of really extraordinary stuff here on Free Speech TV and a lot of great programming from the very best news that you can find literally anywhere. I mean, Amy Goodman's newscast every day, in my opinion, beats anything out there. It beats the network news, it beats PBS, it beats NPR. It certainly beats anything we're doing in terms of news reporting. This show is not a news show as much as it is an opinion show. So we, pick up the news stories of the day, but, I rant about them. But if you really want the news, there you go. That's Democracy Now! Is just one heck of a program. And then you've got a lot of people who are talking about the news, which is, pretty much most of the rest of us on Free Speech TV. Amy is kind of our Walter Cronkite, and we're the commentators. And it's just an amazing thing that has been pulled together over all these years by this relatively small group of people in Denver who run this network, make this happen, and are just doing an absolutely spectacular job. So please call now, 877-378-8669. You can also donate online at freespeech.org, 877-378-8669. You probably heard that telephone number so many times today that you have it memorized. But it's particularly important now. And if you call during our program gets the benefits of that. We get the credit for it, as it were. And, that's a good thing, too. It's kind of your vote for our show. And we appreciate that very much when you call during our program, when our program is live, or if you call in some other time and say, I'm calling because I saw the Thom Hartmann program. So whether you go to freespeech.org, whether you call 877-378-8669, today is a great day to give because of the generosity of Azra, I hope I'm saying that right, in Oak Brook, Illinois, Andrew in San Diego, Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio. Please call now, please.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I may be coming to your city soon on our book tour for The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. I'll be in New York, Washington, D.C., Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Here I come. More information is available at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And, we've been talking about all kinds of stuff today, but this, apropos of my conversation with Julio, this just in the Independent newspaper, reporting Donald Trump has insisted that privatizing the British National Health Service, turning it over to big predatory for-profit corporations, must be on the table in any so-called free trade deal that is negotiated between the United States and the UK. Jeremy Corbyn replied, Theresa May, this is on Twitter, Theresa May stood next to Donald Trump as he said the NHS will be on the table in a U.S. trade deal. And that's what Tory leadership, that's the Conservatives, right? They're the British Republicans. And that's what Tory leadership contenders and Farage are lining up for, the no-deal disaster capitalism plans they have. They all need to understand our National Health Service is not for sale. And then Dr. Paul Williams, he's a physician and a member of Parliament. He tweets, I've been proud to work for the NHS for more than 20 years. Donald Trump today has confirmed the cost of a post-Brexit trade deal. I'll always fight to make sure that our National Health Service can't be sold off to predatory U.S. healthcare companies. And who's with me? He asks, and hundreds of people have responded. It's pretty amazing. Mike in Chicago. Hey, Mike, what's up? Mike, you are on the air.
Hello.
I'm not hearing Mike. Shelley in Seattle. Hey, Shelley, what's on your mind today?
Hey there, I'm thinking about Julio too, and I'm pretty pissed off personally because I'm thinking about going to med school, and to assume that I don't want to go to med school because I can't make the big bucks, and that I would actually do it for, like, you know, the benefit of the human race is pretty insulting, because I think I'm, you know, a little bit above average, perhaps, intelligence. But yeah, so I'm kind of ticked about that.
So let me get this right. I mean, speaking as you know, a father who has two kids who've been through a variation of medical school. One is a nurse practitioner, and the other is doing surgical rounds right now on her way to becoming a physician's assistant. I know that both of them went into it not for the money. I mean, you know, it's good to have a good job, right? These are good-paying jobs, but they both went into it because they really love the idea of healing other people. You're saying, so you're agreeing with me that that's the kind of doctor you'd want to have, rather than the kind of doctor who went into it because he or she thought they could make $1 million a year.
Well, and yeah, I hear that all the time. That's like the biggest criticism of providers that I hear is that, oh, they don't empathize with me. They don't care about me. I'm just another patient. I'm just another case. And that's what med schools are looking for. And the competition for med school is incredibly, well, you know this because what you just said. So it's not for lack of people who want to be practitioners. It's ridiculous. Yeah. This guy, my dad's a teacher too, so he's like double like slapping on both sides of the face. And like I live in Seattle, where if you did have $100,000 maybe as a salary as a teacher, you might get into a trailer park.
Yeah,
like it's ridiculous. So.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation, but I think the bottom line here is in education and in medicine, we want people who love education or love medicine to be the people who are interacting with us as our teachers and our physicians, or our children's teachers and physicians, rather than people who are in it for a buck, which is what you get with charter schools and is what you get with the current uniquely American healthcare system, where, you know, obviously not all doctors are in it for a buck, but, you know, I swear, I've had 2 surgeries in my life, and one of them the guy totally screwed up, and I almost died because he screwed it up. And you know, getting to know this guy, he was a right-wing ideologue. He listens to Rush Limbaugh every day. We'd get in political arguments, and you know, when he was setting me up for the surgery, and I'm convinced that he went into it for the money, and that he was just getting by. And you know, it really concerns me. Shelley, I got to move along, but thank you for the call, and thanks, and good on you, and good luck in medical school. I hope you get in and it works out well. Morris in Long Beach, California. Hey, Morris, what's on your mind today?
Inherent contempt.
Okay, go for it.
Professor, look here. Y'all got to give me some meat here. When Steve Mnuchin defied subpoena from the U.S. Congress, and Ms. Pelosi did not send a sergeant of arms to pick his ass up, it reminds me of something that Jimmy Dore once said, that the Democratic Party is paid to lose. Talk to me about it. I'm going to listen to you after. No, talk to me about it. Is he crazy? Are the Democrats paid to lose? Why hasn't Nancy Pelosi went and picked his ass up, and he's defying a subpoena from the Congress, the House Ways and Means Committee? That's something everybody can respect. It's not Democrat. It's not Republican. It's not Libertarian. Everybody can respect that. And when we blatantly see the Democratic Party ignore following protocol and arresting a guy that's going to ignore protocol, normal procedure, something wrong with us. And Jimmy Dore looking like he's correct. Is he tripping, or what's up? You talk to me.
Well, I can't speak to him, but what I can tell you, Morris, is that if somebody comes to your house to arrest you, they, in all probability, have a warrant. The only exception to warrants is if a police officer sees a crime in progress, and then, you know, because of what they saw, they can arrest somebody. But, you know, or the testimony of multiple witnesses. But generally speaking, if you want to arrest somebody, you have to go to a court and get a warrant for their arrest. Whether it's the guy living next door to you who's throwing firecrackers in your yard, you know, or shooting at you, or whether it's you know, Bill Barr, or, you know, fill in the blank. Who was it? Who you were? Oh, Mnuchin. Whether it was Mnuchin. And so what Pelosi is doing right now, and what Congress is doing right now, is they're starting that process. They've filed. You know, the committees have voted for contempt. It now goes to the full House. Pelosi has to hold a full House vote for contempt. And then that goes to the Justice Department, which is, you know, or actually that goes to a court, excuse me. They will then ask for the arrest of these guys. And of course, the guys will say no. No way, you don't have the right to arrest us. So it goes to a court, and a court will either say, yes, you can arrest him, or no, you can't. But Nancy Pelosi is not, King Tut, not even King Tut. She's not Napoleon. She can't just jump on a horse and say, off, we're going to go off to battle. We're going to go arrest these guys. She doesn't have that power. It has to be ordered by a court. And I can tell you, Morris, the steps that are being taken right now in Congress, in my opinion, are the steps necessary to get to that. So I'm saying take a deep breath and let's give this a few weeks. There's a fair amount of time here. And in fact, there are people who are making the argument, and I don't believe that this is Pelosi's thinking, but who are making the argument that having the, impeachment hearings, even if they don't lead to an impeachment vote, and these other hearings, like, for example, asking Mnuchin to come in or asking Barr to come in, that having these kind of hearings that show the arrogance, the recklessness, the defiance of law, the obstruction of justice of the Trump administration for the entire country to see will actually have more impact if they happen next year than if they happen this year, because they will impact the election and they will hurt Republicans running for office. And I think that that's the case, too. So, Morris, that's my response. And
thanks you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Good talking with you. Steve in Lexington Park, Maryland. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for taking my call. First, just want to let you know I read your book already, and
which one? The Guns book?
Your gun book. I got it. I donated money to Free Speech TV, and I got it.
Oh yeah, you got one before anybody else in the country. Cool.
Correct. And I've already read it, and I'm hoping that on the 10th of June, I'll be able to see you in D.C. And
great.
I live 2 hours south of D.C., so it's going to be a day in D.C. Question: do I need a ticket? Do you know that, or can I just go into the store?
For Busboys and Poets, it's at 6:30. I don't know. I would check with Busboys and Poets and find out. Their phone numbers. It's the one on K Street Northwest.
Right. I can give them a call. What I really caught up about, I was listening to you talking with Julio, and you briefly talked about teacher pay. I've been a teacher since 1976, 31 years on the elementary school level, and now 23 years as an adjunct professor on the university level. And I got a master's degree and a doctorate degree. And I can tell Julio and anybody else with that same mindset, I have never made over $100,000 a year. In fact, my late wife, when we had our first child, we tried to live just on my salary alone, and we found out we could not. So my late wife started up a business, and then she went into politics and so forth. So I just want to let everybody know, teachers, at least through my experience, we don't make over $100,000. And he also said we got off during the summertime. Yes, teachers are off during the summer, but most of us, we would then go to school and continue with our education. Or some of us, like I did in my first year of teaching, I got a part-time job during the summer. So it's not all high pay and luxury.
Yeah,
as a teacher.
Yeah, I absolutely get it. And, it's a really important point to be made. And, and you made it very well. And I appreciate that.
Okay, well, I hope to see you on the 10th.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for the call. Larry in Lewin, Mississippi. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind?
Oh, yes, sir. Well, my question is, why is the Democratic Party not trying to support the momentum that's going forward from the Progressive Party, and they're going against it with the centrist Democratic Party? So how, for us, will we be able to maintain our momentum if we don't get the support of the party in which we are, amongst or using to propel our message forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, we've seen this with the Republican Party already. The Republican Party started out, in the 1950s, arguably, as kind of the party of big business. And then they became, with the Reagan administration, the party of the billionaires. The Democratic Party used to be the party of the progressives. They became the party of kind of white-collar business, and now they're going back to being the party of progressives. So it's really, Larry, it's up to you and as many friends as you can get. If you can take over your local Democratic Party, you can turn it progressive. That's how we have to do it. Larry, thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
45 minutes past the hour and 4 minutes. We're going to check in with Talk Media News. Luke Vargas from New York will tell us what's going on in the world. Stick around. And welcome back, Rich in Central Washington. Hey, Rich, what's on your mind today?
Hey, it's that free market solution, getting insurance on the guns. I think that's the place to start because it automatically kicks in a chain of custody record with the insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
The insurance company is going to offer motivations to lower the rates. Let's say, like, if you got a gun safe, if you use trigger guards, and if you get safety training, or the insurance companies would even require, safety training every 2 years. But the question is, how do you get people to buy in? Most people are just going to hide their guns away and hope nothing bad ever happens.
Well,
require
if you own a car and you got a 100-acre farm and you have no driver's license and the car's not registered with the state and you have no liability insurance, you can still drive that car on your farm.
Right.
But as soon as you drive that car onto the public roads, you get nailed. And I would think, I'm not suggesting that anybody should be going knocking on doors and saying, I want to inspect your house and see if you have any guns here. But over time, what will happen is that the people who are acquiring guns or inheriting guns or buying guns will have to go through this process. And I think you're right, Rich, starting with insurance, mandating insurance to anybody who has a gun, without draconian penalties, but, mandating insurance is a starting point. But I think the way to sell it is to say that we do this with cars. That's why I think all three things are necessary: the registration, the license, and insurance. We do this with cars. We started doing this in the 1920s. It took a while for everybody to conform, but now pretty much everybody does. And we should do this with guns. It's a solution that everybody's familiar with. It doesn't take explaining when you say, why don't we regulate guns the same way we regulate cars?
But the way we get the people in to do this, you say you've got to have a card with a list of what weapons you have, because every gun needs ammo. If you're going to go in and buy ammo, you've got to show me your insurance card with that gun on it, with your name on it, and a picture ID.
Oh, that's a great addition. I hadn't thought about that, Rich, that in order to buy ammunition, you have to prove that you have the insurance for your guns.
Yeah, they'll be cheating. Maybe Joe will be buying ammo for Bob sometimes. But this is a way to get more people. Most people are going to want to follow the law. You're going to have those outliers that are going to try to skirt things. But this is a way to, motivate the people. Hey.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great suggestion. I got it. Rich, I got to move along. But thank you for the call. I think that's a great suggestion. John in Minneapolis. Hey, John, we just have about a minute. What's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we have the example, living in Minnesota, of the Mayo Clinic, where rather than fee-for-service, the physicians are paid a salary. Some of the best care in the country it goes on there. I think that
and their salaries typically in the $200,000 a year range, isn't it? I mean, it's not extraordinary.
No, yeah, right. It isn't like they're making $500,000 or to $1 million from fees and whatnot. Even surgeons there are not making that kind of money, but they work there because they like to work there in an atmosphere where it's extremely professional and it's a group effort. And I also wanted to say, in Europe, the World Health Organization, shows statistics that where we're really far from, at the top in terms of infant mortality and other indices. So
we're at the bottom, actually. Yeah. John, I got to run, but thank you for the call. We are at the bottom. We'll be back. Luke Vargas with Talk Media News is up next. Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. and you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, ThomHartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And welcome back. Let's check in with Luke Vargas and Talk Media News and find out what's going on in the world today. This report brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com and Loving What You Do, Ellen Ratner's new book. And Luke, the Trump administration is going after Cuba again. What's up with this?
Yeah, we got some new travel restrictions put in place today by the Treasury Department. If any one of your listeners wants to go to Cuba for a vacation that doesn't fit into a much now narrower set of exemption categories, you have until midnight tonight to book that trip, or else you will no longer be able to go under this category of person-to-person cultural exchange, which is basically the exemption that hundreds of thousands of Americans have been using to go to the island on cruise ships and commercial flights the last few years. As of tomorrow, no American cruise lines will be able to dock in Cuba. I did not know how big this was, Tom. 142,000 Americans have visited Cuba since January 1st of this year alone, up to the end of April, just via cruise ships. So this is a big category of travel which is going to close. There's going to be a ban on American private planes and private boats from entering the island. Again, it's just, let me tell you the stated justification here from the Treasury Department, and you tell me if it sounds like 1979 or 2019. Quote, Cuba continues to play a destabilizing role in the Western Hemisphere, providing a communist foothold in the region and propping us U.S. adversaries like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and fomenting instability. I mean, it's just funny after 60 years of justifying these sorts of policies to get rid of the Castros, and now you've got new presidents, and this is now being defended by saying these same policies are needed because of Nicolas Maduro. So shifting targets, but the policies are right out of our old playbook here.
Right, and you've got a new president in who's actually experimenting with capitalism. I mean, Louise and I were there a year ago, March. Yeah. And you've got these little bodegas, you've got these little restaurants, shops. I mean, there's capitalism is popping, micro-capitalism, well-regulated capitalism is popping up all over Cuba, and the people are loving it. And, you would think that we would want to be saying, hey, cool, do a little more. Let's bring our values together. We'll learn from you. I mean, Cuba's principal export is doctors. We'll learn from you how to send 20,000 doctors to the rest of the world. And you can learn from us how to do micro-capitalism. And maybe we could learn how to do micro-capitalism too. But anyhow, it's just so sad. It's like, what are they afraid of? I don't think it's what they're afraid of. I think they're sucking up to, the Republicans have always been sucking up to basically the corrupt Batista buddies, the families who made money when the island was run by the mafia. And, they want their property back. They want their money back. And so, anyway, Joe Biden has released his climate change agenda. He was criticized before for basically not making this a main feature. What is in his agenda? What do we need to know about this?
Yeah, I would say, considering we had a report out a few weeks ago from Reuters where one of his advisors, an anonymous advisor, was quoted as saying Biden was going to strike a middle ground on climate change, which was basically the biggest thing you could do to sap progressive enthusiasm for this proposal before it dropped. I would say, given that, today's plan isn't quite so galling. I've seen sort of tepid feedback from groups like Friends of the Earth. The Sierra Club did endorse it, but even people like Bill McKibben, 350.org founder, says this is a good step, especially in some domains. Let me just recap it briefly. I mean, I would say the most important thing that this does is not in terms of emissions targets. He's pretty much in line with the rest of the Democratic candidates who've announced net zero by 2050 is his target. He wants electric vehicle charging stations all over the country, no fossil fuel drilling or other sorts of fossil work on public lands. That's one of the areas that's getting applause here. Those
are all important steps.
They're all important. I would say the thing about banning fossil fuel development on public lands is quite important among activists because it's something that doesn't need legislative approval. And I do think there's a generous dose of bipartisan, fallacy, unfortunately, in a lot of what Biden is proposing here. He would need, he wants, let's say, a bill in Congress to enact legally binding emissions cuts. You're not going to get that So it's nice to offset that with some things he can do on his own. And I would say the biggest area I've been hearing positive feedback on, and I think is reflective of the fact that Biden has been an international diplomat, on behalf of the Obama administration, is that he's really talking about how to coordinate international energy here and saying, look, we're especially on trade and specifically with China, we're going to impose these carbon adjustment fees when trading with countries that fail to meet their climate obligations. He says he wants to.
Those are called tariffs, Luke.
Yeah, they are tariffs, but they are, he's essentially calling them like climate tariffs. And
Right.
he says, we're going to try and get countries to come together to squeeze the Belt and Road Initiative so that it's not going to be funding carbon, it's basically, outsourcing China's carbon footprint to other countries through billions of dollars in development. So I think there's excitement that, there is a desire in Biden's plan to lean further into the kind of American leadership on climate that at times characterized the Obama administration. But again, seems a little bit middle of the road. I think in the last few months, he borrowed pretty heavily from Jay Inslee and in other spots from Michael Bennett, who have both been, hitting this issue pretty hard. Right. And the one area where your listeners should look into this, and I'm sure you'll have some thoughts once you read it, are about how to transition these coal countries, coal states away from coal. I don't know all the details there, but that's going to be an argument Biden needs to make to win over the votes that Trump won last time.
Yeah, well, there's not that many actual coal mines, where miners go into the mines anymore. It's mostly big dump trucks and giant earth-moving machines. So it's which is very, very few employees, but we'll see. Luke Vargas, you can follow him at The Courier on Twitter. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Tom.
We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
So I remember when I was a kid, this advertisement on TV and on radio, actually, for gum, chewing gum. It was Wrigley's, as I recall. Double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Mint. I don't even know if they still make the gum, but today is our Double Your Pleasure, Double Your Fun Day, to steal an old, probably trademarked line. Because Azra in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Andrew in San Diego, and Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio, and thank you to each one of you, put together a match that adds up to $10,000. So any gift you give today up to $10,000 will be doubled. So your $10 becomes $20, your $100 becomes $200, your $500 becomes $1,000, your $1,000 becomes $2,000, et cetera. And in terms of the money that goes to Free Speech TV. So today is a great day to contribute. It's a great day to call 877-378-8669. I better say that again, 877-378-8669. A great day to call and put down your marker, right? Say your pledge and double your pleasure and double your fun by doubling your match. So here we go. It's a great time to call. Also, you can donate at freespeech.org. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program Fair and Slightly Unbalanced bumper sticker. With the $72 gift, you get my book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, which was released today. Today is the day that the book goes out. So that's kind of cool. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of A Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With $20 a month, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, this is a an ongoing pledge commitment, and these are very important, these $20 and $30 a month pledge commitments. With a $30 a month pledge commitment, you get both the stainless steel water bottle and the Thom Hartmann tote bag. With a $500 gift, you can participate in our virtual meet and greet. And on Monday of next week, come to Washington, D.C., and if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're going to be in Washington, D.C., this is June 10th. In the hour before I do a book signing at Busboys and Poets on K Street in Washington, D.C., we will have a meet and greet just for Free Speech TV donors who made a gift of $500 or more. So your choice, virtual meet and greet, in other words, hang out, get together, off-the-record conversation with me, or a meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and hang out with us. And of course, you can give more than that. And today is a great day to do it, because whatever you give will be doubled. The bottom line is it's really, really important that we maintain this television network, that we keep it going forward. Free Speech TV is such an important media outlet. It's such an important television network. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a television network, and it's a nationwide television network, and now with the internet, a worldwide television network. Broadcasting, promoting, sharing a genuine progressive message from a wide variety of hosts, representing a diverse cross-section of America that's growing even more diverse as we continue to add new shows. So just a lot of really extraordinary stuff here on Free Speech TV, and a lot of great programming from the very best news that you can find literally anywhere. I mean, Amy Goodman's newscast every day, in my opinion, beats anything out there. It beats the network news, it beats PBS, it beats NPR. It certainly beats anything we're doing in terms of news reporting. This show is not a news show as much as it is an opinion show. So we, pick up the news stories of the day, but, I rant about them. But if you really want the news, there you go. That's Democracy Now! Is just one heck of a program. And then you've got a lot of people who are talking about the news, which is, pretty much most of the rest of us on Free Speech TV. Amy is kind of our Walter Cronkite, and we're the commentators. And it's just an amazing thing that has been pulled together over all these years by this relatively small group of people in Denver who run this network, make this happen, and are just doing an absolutely spectacular job. So please call now, 877-378-8669. You can also donate online at freespeech.org, 877-378-8669. You probably heard that telephone number so many times today that you have it memorized. But it's particularly important now. And if you call during our program gets the benefits of that. We get the credit for it, as it were. And that's a good thing too. It's kind of your vote for our show, and we appreciate that very much when you call during our program, when our program is live, or if you call in some other time and say, I'm calling because I saw the Thom Hartmann program. So whether you go to freespeech.org, whether you call 877-378-8669, today is a great day to give because of the generosity of Azra. I hope I'm saying that right, in Oak Brook, Illinois, Andrew in San Diego, Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio. Please call now, please. Every day here on the Thom Hartmann program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com and you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Boy, what a day. Our conversation with Julio was fascinating. Which is a right and which is a privilege? Guns or health care? He's a conservative. He says guns are a right, health care is a privilege. I'm a liberal. I say guns are a privilege, health care is a right. Now, the UK had this discussion a whole long time ago. And they decided, and I believe it was right after World War II, it might have been after World War I, but it was, back in the day. And what they decided was that guns are a privilege and health care is a right. And so they created the National Health Service, this literally national health service. They built their own hospitals, they built doctors' offices, they call them surgeries, local doctors' offices. They put young people through medical school and got enough doctors and nurses to staff the whole thing. It is one of the few of the, every developed country has healthcare as a universal right, and everybody is covered, and nobody goes broke from being sick. Only in the United States can you go bankruptcy. Can you end up in bankruptcy because somebody in your family or you got sick, and that happens to about 600,000 American families a year. In the United Kingdom, the number of families who go bankrupt because they got sick is zero. So, and the same with Germany and France, and I mean, you pick your European country, your developed country, zero. So, they've already litigated this stuff. And the National Health Service is like, people in the UK love the National Health Service. I mean, this is where you go to get care, to get help. And I would say largely as a result of the United States Supreme Court in 1976 at the urging of Lewis Powell, author of the Powell Memo, the 1971 Powell Memo. Nixon put him on the Supreme Court right after he wrote the Powell Memo in 72, put him on the Supreme Court. In 76, the Supreme Court ruled in a decision called Buckley versus Vallejo that money is speech, and, they'd already said corporations are people, that basically money is speech. That if somebody with a lot of money wants to buy a politician or wants to buy public opinion by dumping that money into the public airwaves to argue for or against a particular piece of legislation or a ballot initiative or a candidate for office, they may do that because that is speech. And you have this right to free speech articulated in the First Amendment. Now, no other, never before in the history of the United States prior to 1976 had we ever had this weird notion that corporations have a right of free speech, and that the way that they exercise that right, because they don't have mouths, they're just corporations, or billionaires for that matter, who do have mouths, but their speech is beyond just what they say with their mouth. It's also how many dollars they have. That's how much free speech they have. U.S. Supreme Court decided this, and as a result, we've seen this steady ever since '76. It went on steroids in 1980 with the election of Ronald Reagan. We have seen this steady encroachment of corporate power and billionaire power taking over largely our entire political dialogue. Certainly the entire political dialogue on the Republican side, and about half of the political dialogue on the Democratic side. And the result of that is that we have continued to maintain ever since that time, a healthcare system that is great for making big profits for billionaires. I mean, Stephen J. Hemsley, the last CEO of United Healthcare, made over $1 billion. The guy that he replaced, they called him Dollar Bill McGuire, took $1.6 billion. And then he was caught in a multi-million-dollar fraud. He had to give back a couple $100 million of it. But no, he didn't go to jail for that. I mean, it was just a couple $100 million, right? So we have a healthcare system, a for-profit healthcare system, where 600,000 Americans a year have to declare bankruptcy because somebody in their family got sick. But the CEOs of the hospitals and the health insurance companies and some doctors are getting very, very wealthy. Not so much doctors. It's mostly the businessmen and women. And, so that's the situation. So now Donald Trump goes over to the UK, and in a press conference with Theresa May, the Prime Minister, who is in this very difficult situation. If they have a hard Brexit, if they leave the European Union without any kind of trade agreement with any of the EU countries, or without the European Union itself, And Theresa May negotiated one, but 3 different times she took it to Parliament, and 3 different times Parliament said, no, we won't pass this. So if they don't have some sort of a middle ground agreement where there's some trade benefits to them, there's going to be chaos over the short term. I mean, it'll sort itself out within a year or 2 or 3, but there's going to be short-term chaos in the UK. And so one of the things that they're trying to do is line up trade partners. And the United States and the United Kingdom have, trade that is huge. We're one of the largest traders with the United Kingdom as a, country by country, probably number 1, if not number 2 behind China. And they're a major trader with us. And, there are a lot of British-owned companies in the United States as well. So Donald Trump and so Theresa May and the Brits very much want to have a trade agreement with the United States so that they can, good trade enhances prosperity. Bad trade diminishes prosperity. It's that simple. And they're trying to work out good trade. And Trump says, you want to do that? Privatize your National Health Service. Sell off those doctors' offices to the doctors. Sell off the hospitals to the business people. Sell off I would just take your entire infrastructure and put it on the auction block. And this is bizarre. I mean, we're meddling in another country's internal politics, first off. And secondly, it's a mindset that is, in my opinion, destructive to democracy itself. When people are freaked out, when they can't get health care, they're less likely to trust their government. They're less likely to care about their government. They're less likely to vote and participate. I mean, just look at the Republican-controlled states where they didn't expand Medicaid. You've got people dying there who don't need to die. You've got the highest in some. If you look at Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, you've got the highest maternal death rates and the highest child death rates in the developed world because there was no expansion of Medicaid with Obamacare. So this is an issue that we need to be paying serious attention to, and we need to also, in our own country, now it's also an issue, by the way, that the Tories, the British version of Republicans, they're gung-ho for privatization. Yes, privatize the NHS. It worked so well with the railroads, after all. Gag. So we'll see where it goes. But and in a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Caitlin Saposi-Belknap about that very thing, about getting this under control. Meanwhile, Howard in Seattle. Hey, Howard, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking the call. I wanted to get your take on an idea that I've been thinking about for a while, trying to understand why, over the past many decades, the presidency shifts from Democratic to Republican Party about every 8 years, with a few exceptions.
All right.
So is it possible that is related to a general downslide in the economy, a general downslide and downturn in the feeling of people around the country in terms of their own financial security and well-being? And so, we elect somebody new to fix the problem. The problem doesn't go away, it gets worse. And then after, maybe we elect him one more time to give it a shot. It fails, so we go to the other party. It swings to the right and it swings to the left on a sort of steady downward ramp.
Right.
Does that make any sense to you? Has anyone talked about that or written about that?
Well, that's conventional wisdom, Howard, but I disagree with it. If you look at the history of the United States, it was basically Jefferson's Democratic-Republican Party that controlled the United States for its first 60, 70 years, largely up until the Civil War. You had, there were times when the Democrats took control. There were times when the Whigs had control, and there were times, the Republicans didn't have control until 1860 with the election of Lincoln. So it basically had one-party rule over the country during that period of time. Then after the Civil War, as Reconstruction was failing, you had Republican control of the United States. The only Democrat who was elected president after the Civil War, was Grover Cleveland. And, he was elected president twice in non-concurrent terms, but that was it. It was all Republicans up until, 1900. And Woodrow Wilson was kind of an exception. And then you had basically the Democrats, as a result of the Great Depression, took over. And yeah, you had Eisenhower, but he was in there he totally supported FDR's New Deal. So you had, Democrats and liberal Republicans from 1930 right up until right up until 1980, I would say. But what happened was in '76 with that Supreme Court decision that I was talking about a minute ago, what happened was that allowed great wealth to work its way into both parties and take over the Republican Party. So the people keep wanting to go back to the New Deal and the Great Society, in other words, Democratic presidents. But this every time every time we get close to that, the Koch brothers and their buddies throw another $400, $500, $600 million into an election cycle, and a Republican president pops up. So I think that we're in the abnormal period, not the normal period, Howard. I got to run. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 16 minutes, coming up on 17 minutes past the hour. We're going to be talking in 4 minutes here, repealing the idea of corporate personhood and money as speech. And welcome back. Tom in Kintersville, Pennsylvania. Hey, Tom, thanks for watching Free Speech TV. What's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Hey, first of all, thank you for some great books. I just got done Ancient Sunlight, and I'm well into The Prophet's Way.
Oh, my.
But
okay.
I want to give you a chuckle, a crazy idea. These congressional committees can't get testimony from the people because the administration won't let them come. And what if the courts say come and they still won't come? I think the committees should ask for volunteer professional celebrity actors to come in and read the Mueller report in character.
Robert De Niro could do it.
Exactly.
He plays Mueller on Saturday Night Live.
Right, and he's not boring like Mueller is.
Right, yes.
Who knows?
It would make great political theater.
I mean, hearings could win an Emmy.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even need to do it in Congress. They could do it on a sound set. They could create a make-believe Congress, and get a studio audience and.
That sounds like another great TV show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Political theater
you,
at a high level. Thank you, Tom. Great to hear from you. Amazing. Jim in Valley Center, California. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind?
Hello, Tom. I want to thank you. I became a member of my Valley Center Democratic Club and then became an ADEM and just got back from the California Convention, and I thought I'd give you a little bit of interesting tidbit besides being, extremely exhilarating and vigorous and fun. I thought there's something that we all need to really consider. There were two candidates running for the California Democratic Party chairman of the state of California. One was Rusty Hicks, who was a union leader of Los Angeles and more progressive, but more in the middle range. And the other one was Kim Ellis, a very progressive African-American young lady that had a huge amount of following as well and lost last time only by 13 votes.
Oh.
Well, to get down to the nitty-gritty, Hicks, who is more conservative in the California conference, won by 57% to 32% to Ellis. What that told me was that there was a lot of screaming and a lot of energy for many candidates. But when it comes to voting, the Democrats in California seem to be yet leaning more towards the middle-of-the-road candidate than the more progressive, which I personally am more progressive. But that's what I said, and seeing all the 14 candidates within 50 feet of you was a thrill of a lifetime.
That's great. It sounds to me like, essentially what you're saying, Jim, is that the establishment, which is always conservative, I mean, in the classic sense, cautious, careful, trying to protect their own interests, covering their own butts, that basically the institutional party in California has not yet been taken over by the insurgents, by the progressives. It's still the institutional party.
Completely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that that's going to change over time. I wouldn't totally wring my hands about that. It's unfortunate. I'm sad to hear that the progressive didn't win, but step by step, and even the middle of the road Democrats these days. I'm sorry.
It was a great experience, and
yeah.
I hope everyone will join the local. And I did it because I kept listening to your program, and it spurred me to get to that level.
That's great, Jim. Thank you so much. Great talking with you. We'll be back. Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell the list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com. And you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. We've been talking about the impact in terms of health care and other things that money in politics has had. Let's go to the national expert on this. Caitlin Saposi-Belknap is the national director of Move to Amend. MoveToAmend.org is the website. The Twitter handle is also @MoveToAmend. Caitlin, welcome back.
Hi, Tom. Great to hear your voice again.
Back at you. So what's up? What are you guys doing now? Where's Move to Amend at? How are the various states moving forward? How goes the battle?
Yeah, well, I hope everyone will go to MoveToAmend.org and sign our petition to join the campaign to amend the Constitution to make clear that only human beings have constitutional rights, not corporations, and also that money is not speech. We've been working on this since Citizens United ruling, so almost 10 years ago, and I and you have been working on this issue since before that, but as Move to Amend. And our amendment has been introduced in Congress 3 times. So it was reintroduced in the new Congress in February. I'm really excited that we have a new lead because Rick Nolan, who had been our original lead, retired last year. And so Pramila Jayapal, star that she is our new lead in the House.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah,
and she's the co-chair
exciting?
of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Her and Mark Pocan run that thing.
Yes, we're super excited to be working with Representative Jayapal. She's great. And she came on in part because we passed a ballot initiative in her state of Washington. And she was inspired by that and volunteered to pick up the reins when Nolan retired. So that was very exciting. She was a bit busy working on Medicare for All at the beginning of this year, and so we're really kind of just getting to things in D.C. We have a conference coming up in a couple weeks. We call it our National Leadership Summit. You joined us there last year, and it was great to have you. So we'll be doing it again, and there's still registration is still open. There's still some spots left if folks want to go to move to. It's in D.C. at the same place it was last year, so that's Trinity College, just right off the hill.
Yeah,
and
that was great.
It's a full weekend conference of training and organizing and building analysis and strategy around this movement, and then we do a lobby day on that Monday, which always is a big hit. We have a lot of people who have never ever lobbied before who go and hit both their Senate offices and their House offices, and it's always very exciting. And then I'm going to be in D.C. actually for the first time more than a week. I'm going to be there for most of the summer to really keep on working on this. And We have 48 co-sponsors right now, so it's House Joint Resolution 48, and we just hit 48. We brought in a couple new co-sponsors because we had some actions last week. We're really trying to, gear up for 2020. Every single member of the House will be up for election, and then obviously, we know that it's a big federal election all around. And so far, the presidential candidates mostly just talk about money and politics, and they really aren't even talking about that as much as they should. But as you know, Tom, and your listeners know, the issue goes much deeper. The problem didn't begin with Citizens United. If we only overturn Citizens United and re-grant Congress the authority to regulate campaign spending, that isn't going to solve our problem of corporate power and corporations overturning local laws and state laws. And
Have you thought
United federal laws?
Yeah, pardon my interrupting, but we have only 30 seconds left. Grover Norquist, really took this thing national by, his anti-tax pledge by essentially asking Republican candidates for office to sign his pledge that they would not raise taxes. Have you thought about creating a pledge for politicians to sign that they would support ending corporate personhood and money as speech?
Yes, we have it already. It's called the Pledge to Amend, and we will be picking it up big for 2020. So thank you for bringing that up.
So people need to, when people contact candidates for president, the next time you get an email from your favorite candidate for president asking for money, respond and say, hey, have you signed the pledge to overturn corporate personhood and, the Move to Amend pledge, right?
And support the We the People Amendment. Exactly.
There you go.
Thanks for having me on, Tom. Great to talk to you.
My pleasure, Caitlin. Caitlin Sapozzi-Belknap is the National Director of Move to Amend. MoveToAmend.org is the website that we've been talking about here. Check it out, and you can tweet her at Move to Amend. Caitlin, thanks so much, and keep up the great work. It is fabulous what you're doing. We'll be back with your calls right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And more of your calls and the news of the day right after this break here at the bottom of the hour. Stick around. It's 28 coming up on 28 minutes past. So I remember when I was a kid, this advertisement on TV and on radio, actually, for gum, chewing gum. It was Wrigley's, as I recall. Double your pleasure, double your fun with Double Mint. I don't even know if they still make the gum, but today is our Double Your Pleasure, Double Your Fun Day, to steal an old, probably trademarked line. Because Azra in Oak Brook, Illinois, and Andrew in San Diego, and Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio, and thank you to each one of you, put together a match that adds up to $10,000. So any gift you give today up to $10,000 will be doubled. So your $10 becomes $20, your $100 becomes $200, your $500 becomes $1,000, your $1,000 becomes $2,000, et cetera. And in terms of the money that goes to Free Speech TV. So today is a great day to contribute. It's a great day to call 877-378-8669. I better say that again, 877-378-8669. A great day to call and put down your marker, right? Say your pledge and double your pleasure and double your fun by doubling your match. So here we go. It's a great time to call. Also, you can donate at freespeech.org. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann Program Fair and Slightly Unbalanced bumper sticker. With the $72 gift, you get my book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, which was released today. Today is the day that the book goes out. So that's kind of cool. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of A Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment. With $20 a month, you get the Thom Hartmann Program stainless steel water bottle. With a $30 a month gift, this is an ongoing pledge commitment, and these are very important, these $20 and $30 a month pledge commitments. With a $30 a month pledge commitment, you get both the stainless steel water bottle and the Thom Hartmann tote bag. With a $500 gift, you can participate in our virtual meet and greet, and on Monday of next week, come to Washington, D.C., and if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're going to be in Washington, D.C., this is June 10th. In the hour before I do a book signing at Busboys and Poets on K Street in Washington, D.C., we will have a meet and greet just for Free Speech TV donors who made a gift of $500 or more. So your choice, virtual meet and greet, in other words, hang out, get together, off-the-record conversation with me, or a meet and greet at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And with a $1,000 gift, come here to Portland and hang out with us. You know, it's and of course you can give more than that. And today is a great day to do it because whatever you give will be doubled. The bottom line is it's really, really important that we maintain this television network, that we keep it going forward. Free Speech TV is such an important media outlet. It's such an important television network. I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a television network, and it's a nationwide television network, and now with the internet, a worldwide television network. For, you know, broadcasting, promoting, sharing a genuine progressive message from a wide variety of hosts, representing a diverse cross-section of America that's growing even more diverse as we continue to add new shows. So just a lot of really extraordinary stuff here on Free Speech TV and a lot of great programming from the very best news that you can find literally anywhere. I mean, Amy Goodman's newscast every day, in my opinion, beats anything out there. It beats the network news, it beats PBS, it beats NPR. It certainly beats anything we're doing in terms of news reporting. This show is not a news show as much as it is an opinion show. So we, you know, pick up the news stories of the day, but, you know, I rant about them. But if you really want the news, there you go. That's you know, Democracy Now! Is just one heck of a program. And then you've got a lot of people who are talking about the news, which is, you know, pretty much most of the rest of us on Free Speech TV. Amy is kind of our Walter Cronkite, and we're the commentators. And it's just an amazing thing that has been pulled together over all these years by this relatively small group of people in Denver who you know, run this network, make this happen, and are just doing an absolutely spectacular job. So please call now, 877-378-8669. You can also donate online at freespeech.org, 877-378-8669. You probably heard that telephone number so many times today that you have it memorized. But it's particularly important now. And if you call during our program gets the benefits of that. You know, we get the credit for it, as it were. And you know, that's a good thing too. It's kind of your vote for our show, and we appreciate that very much when you call during our program, when our program is live, or if you call in some other time and say, you know, I'm calling because I saw the Thom Hartmann program. So whether you go to freespeech.org, whether you call 877-378-8669, today is a great day to give because of the generosity of Azra. I hope I'm saying that right, in Oak Brook, Illinois, Andrew in San Diego, Charles and Carla in Corte Madera, California, and Robert in San Antonio. Please call now, please.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Guns and the Second Amendment. I'll be in New York, Washington, D.C., Portland, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. Here I come. More information is available at thomhartmann.com. And New York is this Thursday, 7:30 at the Strand. Next Monday is Washington, D.C., 6:30 at Busboys and Poets on K Street Northwest. And Wednesday of next week here in Portland at Powell's. So it should be a lot of fun. Oh, by the way, there was a news story that I thought was, you know, really worth sharing here. I had no idea. I knew that Donald Trump had asked the royal family to invite him to the UK, and you know, you don't turn down an invitation for him. You know, they were like, okay, but they only formally invited Donald Trump and Melania Trump. That's it. They did not invite any members of his family whatsoever. And yet last night at the state dinner, he brought all of his kids and a couple of their spouses, which was not the idea that the Queen had. This is not playing well, shall we say, in the United Kingdom. Michael in Redding, California. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I've been a long-time listener, and I agree with most of your points.
But
I did want to talk about charter programs a little bit. Charter programs for me have saved me and my autistic daughter, who's nonverbal. I've had to pull her out of several public schools due to abuse. And without the charter school option, that wouldn't have been possible. They tried to take me to court when I pulled her out, mainly because of the $17.5 billion a year that's spent on the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Right.
Betsy DeVos has rescinded 72 letters, which essentially gives the counties and the districts free reign over that land.
Yeah. No, I get it, Michael, and I'm not universally opposed to charter schools. I think as they were originally envisioned as nonprofit organizations that would complement local public schools and provide education in areas that public schools were not, highly focused on. Disability. Although the problem, if you start moving people with disabilities into charter schools, you have the potential for setting up basically ghettos for those people. And over time, if the money starts drying up or starts being reduced, you're going to see this go down. Or if they're run by for-profit corporations and they want to start extracting more profit, you're going to start seeing, that disintegrate. My objection is to the for-profit charter schools.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And furthermore, just taking the corruption out of the entire system, because all the system wants is for attendance, so
right.
They could pool up that extra money. And I asked them to itemize it, and they couldn't.
Right.
They can't tell me how much money actually goes to my daughter that's specifically designed for my daughter.
Right. Well, I can't speak to that, but I think the broad principle is an important one, and that is that we should have public education that is adequate to everybody's needs. And as long as we are funding education with property taxes, we're never going to have that, whether it's charter schools or public schools. It's absolutely crazy. This is a system that was put into place as, the whole idea of public schooling didn't even really start in the United States in a big way. That is, everybody can go to school until the 1880s, 1890s. That's when Horace Mann started making his sales pitch up in the Northeast. In fact, Boston was the first city that bought into this in the early 1890s. And his pitch to them was, if you, at that time, Boston was a Catholic dot in a Protestant Massachusetts. Massachusetts had been largely founded by the Protestant, by the Quakers and the Puritans and whatnot, and Boston had become filled with Catholic immigrants, and the Massachusetts political system, state political system, was taken over by an anti-Catholic party called the Know Nothing Party. It's actually called the Order of the Star-Spangled Banner, but they referred to themselves as the Know Nothings, and their secret handshake, they would kind of fist bump and say, "I know nothing," and that's how they identified themselves to each other. But it wasn't a secret. I mean, they talked about it in the newspapers and stuff. And Horace Mann went to the Know Nothing group, to this Order of the Star-Spangled Banner, and made this sales pitch, and I think it was 1893, and said, if you want to break the back of Catholic resistance to Protestant rule in Massachusetts, because the Catholics were running their own home schools, kind of the way that Hasidic communities often do, or other communities that want to have very specialized education for their kids do, where they, you get 5 or 6 families who get together and then they educate their own kids. That's what the Catholics in Boston were doing. And his argument to them was, make it mandatory, this education, and it will provide good workers for the factories, good soldiers for the military, and you'll break the back of the Catholic resistance. And so it's not how we think of education now, right? But this was the sales pitch, and Massachusetts bought it, imposed those public schools on Boston. There was a huge resistance by the Catholics. Several fathers were actually killed by police coming to take their children to school and getting in gunfights with them. I mean, there was a 3 or 4 year just knockdown, drag-out battle over this. And then, public education started spreading across the United States. Horace Mann was a great evangelist for it. But the idea was that we should educate all of our kids, or that's what the idea became. And but the second half of it was that they wanted to make sure that in the Catholic communities in Boston, that the schools were not really all that good, that they weren't as good as the wealthier Protestant communities that surrounded Boston. And so the way that they came up with for funding these schools, the Order of the Star-Spangled Banner, was not using state taxes, but instead making them mandatory at the state level, but requiring communities to fund them themselves with property taxes. And what that did is it guaranteed that the Catholic schools would be a ghetto for a couple of generations, which they were, or not the Catholic schools, but the schools that the Catholic kids went to in Boston. And then as this public education spread across up and down the eastern seaboard throughout the 19-teens, the 19-aughts, the 19-teens, and the 1920s, they did the same thing, only for the purposes of racial segregation, so that the kids in the poor black neighborhoods would have crappy schools, and the kids in the more affluent white neighborhoods would have really good schools. And so they perpetuated this idea of property tax supporting schools. And we needed to completely reject this. We just need to say, that's it. No more property tax for public schools. We're going to fund our public schools with state funds and federal funds, and we're going to equalize public schools all across the United States. And if we did that, Michael, I don't think that there would be a need for charter schools, because schools would be well funded enough that they could spin off their own little magnet schools and their own schools that specialize in things like autism and et cetera, et cetera. But there's so much resistance to this because particularly in the South, I lived in Georgia for 13 years, particularly in the South, in the southern states, these red states, they still want there to be crappy schools that black people go to and good schools that white people go to. And many of them are quite explicit about it. And this is why the Republican Party will have nothing to do with any effort to change property tax as a way of funding schools, even though Democrats frequently talk about, trying to equalize this. So it's a mess. And I get it. You want your kid to have the best education possible. But we need a top to bottom rehaul of this.
I would be happy with a safe environment. I mean, she's nonverbal and she gets a half hour a week of speech therapy.
Yeah.
And that's, I find it tooth and nail, and I'm threatened to, be taken to court. And so I agree with the fact that the entire process is just broken.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, and it's been broken, frankly, by racism, and whatever religious bigotry, I guess, would be where it started. With Horace Mann and Boston and Massachusetts. Michael, fascinating conversation. Thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. Jim in Hillsboro, Oregon. Hey, Jim, what's up?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Jim. Can hardly hear you. Speak up.
Hi. Do you hear me now?
Yes, I do. What's on your mind?
Well, this phone's only about 50 years old.
Okay. What's up?
Hey, I wanted to weigh in on guns. You used the phrase, Second Amendment rights versus Second Amendment privileges.
Right.
Right. Something or whatever it was. Comparing it to health care.
Right.
Here's a little different way to slice that. The issue to me is not your right to have a gun. The issue to me is you're wrong to have a gun.
Explain.
Think of that as a bumper sticker.
I don't think most people would get the it's not quite a pun, but whatever, the double entendre, I guess. But outside of the bumper sticker, is there an argument here?
Yeah, because, all of the solutions to gun violence are always supply-side kind of things, to limit and restrict gun ownership,
right,
gun availability.
Well, the reason for that is that we know that there's an actual linear relationship, or largely linear relationship, between the number of guns in a society and the number of and the amount of gun violence in that society. You reduce the number of guns, you reduce the gun violence. Australia is the classic case in point, and the closest to the United States is in terms of a country and a culture.
But look at it like this. Look at the demand side. We have a gun culture. People like guns in America. We want guns.
Actually, it's a small percentage of Americans, Jim, who own guns. I've got to look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's a small percentage of Americans who own guns. And it's a small percentage of gun owners who own more than 2 guns. I mean, like single-digit small.
Right. But, Tom, you and I are of an age, and we both, grew up with toy guns.
Sure.
Cowboys.
Yeah, I had cap guns. I had a BB gun. My mom had a .22. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's, to me, that's the thing, is somehow, and I don't know exactly how, maybe we did contacts in Hollywood. Maybe you got Hollywood involved. But to promote the idea that guns are not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you know, the simple statistic that really needs to go viral is that if you have a gun in your house, you are 500% more likely to have somebody die in your house as a result of the gun than if you don't have, of a gun, than if you don't have a gun in your house. And that's mind-boggling. Jim, I got to run, but thank you for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archive.
45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Erica in Los Angeles. Hey, Erica, you wanted to talk about the election for the Democratic chair in California. I've gotten one point of view on it. I wasn't there, and I haven't read anything about it, so I don't know if it was an absolutely true one. What's up?
Hi, yes, I am an elected delegate, and I was there, and the gentleman's point of view is correct. I appreciated his call.
Okay.
But I just wanted to also make the point that and I supported Kimberly Ellis, but I was an elected delegate last time around, and a bunch of us Bernie supporters became elected delegates last time around, and this time around they saw us coming. And so the only people who could vote for the chair are either elected delegates or appointed delegates, which kind of are similar to superdelegates. So even in the ADEM elections, let's just say the establishment used every advantage they had to stack that election to have, you know, the more establishment delegates elected. So I think that's why the difference between her having a much larger gap in the election this time and last time, it was very close. And as you know, going up against the machine is tough. So,
well, that's the bad news, Erica, and you're right. The good news is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. When enough progressives have been elected or appointed to these positions in the California Democratic Party, then and that they have a majority that they can control the party, they will be able to use the same mechanism to keep the corporate Dems out.
Yes, well, we're hanging in there, and we're still.
It's moving in that direction.
So.
It is absolutely moving in that direction. I mean, there's a generational shift here that is happening. The boomers are hooking up or joining up with the millennials, and I think it's happening. I really do. Erica, thank you for the call. I want to get one more call in here before we finish this break. Joe in Cupertino, California. Hey, Joe, thanks for watching Free Speech. What's up?
Congratulations on the release of your new book. I really look forward to reading it and seeing you here in California. You know that I believe you're going to be doing your book signing in Eric Stallwell's district, and that's his big issue.
That's interesting.
Gun violence is a big deal in Oakland because it happens just like in Chicago happened last weekend. I mean, hundreds of children are killed. So I was at a town hall, and I was just hearing the gentleman speak, and he said where he came from, they have gun laws and they have restrictions, but the biggest thing is they only allow you to have one gun. You can have a gun, and they have restrictions, but you're only allowed one.
Is this a California state law, or is this town?
No. This is another country. Israel only allows you to own one gun.
I see.
You can have a gun, but you can only have one.
Right.
And I thought, well, that would be a way of dealing with your liability issue in as much as there's one per person. And I don't know, if you wanted to join a gun club like they do in England, it hunts, so you could use another, sports hunting.
Right.
But I would think that would...
Germany and Switzerland, too.
It wouldn't be an infringement upon... I wouldn't think you could say it would be an infringement. We're regulating it.
Right.
We're just regulating that you can only have one. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me, Joe, and sounds like a reasonable thing. One gun. I don't object to that. I'll have to track down the Israeli gun laws. That's fascinating. Joe, thank you for the heads up on it. I appreciate the call. We'll be back. It's 49, coming up on 10 minutes before the hour, 50 minutes after the hour. Stick around. We'll be right back. Every day here on the Thom Hartmann Program, Louise and I and our team, Sean, Nate, Shira, Dave, Chase, Sue, Nigel, Ron, we all work to put together the very, very best show we possibly can. And there's an enormous amount of work that goes into the show. And one of the things that comes out of that is a lot of content, a lot of specific information that we go through and we dig out and, we want to share with you. And Sue puts that into our newsletter every week. And I think you will, if you don't already receive our newsletter, it comes in email every day, about an hour after we're off the air, or maybe a couple hours after we're off the air. And Sue goes through and pulls literally every link to every story that we talked about and puts it into the newsletter. It's free. We don't sell a list or anything. You complete safety and security. There's no charge. There's no nothing. Just, plug in your email address over at thomhartmann.com and you get signed up for the newsletter. It's all fairly obvious. You'll see it on the website. So check it out, thomhartmann.com. Thank you.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Rich in Aurora, Colorado, listening on Sirius XM. Hey, Rich, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Great to talk to you again. Awesome show as always.
Thank you.
Used to listen to you on 760 out here. Just going back a ways. I wanted to just to the conservative guest you had on. I would have posited the question.
Rich, it sounds like maybe you're driving, but if you can get your mouth any closer to that.
Said, name me.
We got to turn up the game.
Name me anything a Republican-controlled government has done for America for the last 50 years. He's quite incorrect, your guest, in that saying we have a service economy. No, we have a consumerism economy. And to say that teachers only work 6 hours a day, again, he doesn't understand his facts. Teachers work more than 8 hours a day and take their work home with them, and it's just this complete racket. And well, that's what conservatism is. It's a racket. And to the gun issue, Tom, I would say that it expressly states, like in England, a militia is where an armory, if you join the National Guard, is where guns are kept.
Right.
These people who have I'm in the cannabis business, Tom, and everything needs to be licensed and regulated, except for guns. You want to be a crane operator, you need to have a license. You want to get a scuba diving license, you need to get a license. Like you were saying yesterday, I think it's absolute, and I'd take it one step further, Tom, say we need to have training and retraining every 5 years, like for your driver's license. You have to get your driver's license, re-upped and re-upped. And I would also say that we need to put etchings on munitions and to track and hold people accountable when a gun is used and somebody is killed.
Yep, Rich, I'm with you on all those points. I'm absolutely with you. Rich, thank you very much for the call. Mike in Palatine, Illinois. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, Tom, really quick, I just wanted to bounce this off you. I'm getting very concerned with a lot of the Democratic base getting disillusioned by the Democratic Party taking little or no action against, who we elected in 2018 to clean house, and they still haven't.
Right.
And specifically, like the FDNY, it's starting to remind me.
You're talking Southern District of New York, the federal prosecutor there.
Yeah, it's reminding me more and more of the Flint water crisis, where you don't even hear about it on the news anymore.
Yeah.
And Letitia James, when she first came out, she came out with guns blazing, saying inaugural committee investigations that, they finally...
Those are ongoing right now, Mike.
And, well, that's what I was wondering. Do you know, do they have sealed indictments? Is that
I don't know if they have indictments, but I know that they've got a grand jury going. They are calling witnesses. They have acquired. She has, Letitia James, to the best of my knowledge, has acquired data from Deutsche Bank and from Capital One, I think it was, from a couple of these banks. I mean, she's going forward full tilt boogie. She shut down the Trump Foundation already. So,
can they subpoena any of the Trump kids by chance? They work in the White House?
They can, and we'll see where that goes. They also, I believe, I only saw this in one place, so I can't swear that this is absolutely true. But one news report that I saw this morning said that Paul Manafort was just moved to Rikers Island to be available to the New York Attorney General, to Letitia James, for prosecution in New York for crimes that he's committed there. So, you know, we'll see where it goes. But I think I'm actually quite optimistic. Mike, I got to run. I want to get another caller in here before the end of the hour. Brian in Tacoma, Washington. Hey, Brian, what's on your mind?
Hey, I was just calling because I heard the Cuba word before, and the guy called in. I've talked to you about it before because I used to lead the people-to-people tours there. I've been over 23 times in 4 years.
Right.
And there's just the new Trump policy as of today is just so ill-informed and destructive to Americans and Cubans.
Yep.
And it's just completely ignorant, and they know nothing about the situation.
Oh, and he's doing this to Venezuela, he's doing it to Iran, and now he's trying to do it to Cuba. Destroy a nation economically.
Yeah, and we're making the same mistake we made decades ago. We could be friends with them, and we should be friends with them at this point.
Amen.
But,
I totally agree. Brian, I want to get one more caller in here. Thanks for the call. Paul in Elmhurst, Illinois. Paul, you got 30 seconds. What you wanted to talk about impeachment?
Just tell me I'm crazy. Could it possibly be that the likes of Nancy Pelosi and the other people, doesn't matter which, but both sides of the party, are behind closed doors saying, look, we can't go with impeachment because it would end up having a civil war in the country? Do you
I don't think so.
Something like that behind doors is happening?
I don't think they're afraid at all. I really don't think they're afraid at all. I think that they're moving forward. Fred in Bremerton, Washington. Fred, you got 15 seconds. 10 seconds. What's on your mind?
I'm a liberal. I love everybody that lives in this country. Every American, imports, exports. I don't care who you are. You believe in this country and what it believes in. I'm fine with that. I'm also a gun owner. The only reason I own guns is because I take training. I understand what they're all about. But I'm now owning guns because I don't know what the right's going to do.
Okay, Fred, thanks for the call. Whoa, that's a whole nother conversation. Thanks so much for being with us today. Don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport, right? We can't just sit around and complain about stuff. We've got to do something. Even if that is just like waking up your neighbors. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
We say fight back!